Yo, 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 what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another live stream. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking, all right? So shout out to everybody who is in the building early. It's good to see each and every one of you. If you can hear me okay and everything looks good on the screen, please give me a thumbs up or a radiation emoji in the chat. If you cannot hear me or things are looking and sounding bad, please give me a thumbs down or an angry face, all right? While you guys are doing that, I'm going to shout out everybody who is in the building early, all right? Shout out to Katsy. Good to see you. Shout out to my man, DJ Elmo. What's good with it, bro? Shout out to Carlton Way. We got Jesse Paris in the building. Shout out to you, bro. We got Black Women Stand Up. Shout out to you. And that is it. To everybody who has not said anything in the chat, shout out to you. Shout out to everybody wherever you're watching from. Smash that like button. Hit the bell. Share the stream. Shout out to my man, AW1. All right. We're going to ask this question, all right, because we so far are not even a week into the Trump presidency, are we? So there's these two arguments. The first argument is that mass deportation is what America needs right now. All right, there's that argument. Then there's the other argument: mass immigration is what America needs right now. Now, here's my question for you guys. Which argument is correct? Do both arguments have validity, or does one have more validity for the current situation? All right. Let me know what you guys think. All right. We're going to start off right here. All right. Mexico is refusing to accept U.S.'s deportation flight as Trump's immigration overhaul gets into full swing. All right. So let's take a look at this. All right. Let's see what they're saying on this video here.
Hay mucha migra y todos están cayendo. No les recomiendo cruzar porque hay un chingo de niños.
So the people that are going back to Mexico are recommending do not cross. All right. Mexico refused to allow a plane carrying illegal migrants to land in the country on Thursday after President Trump dramatically beefed up security at the border and ordered mass raids and deportations since reclaiming the White House, according to military officials. Now, that's kind of different than what the Mexican president was saying at first, right? If you guys recall, at first, the Mexican president was saying that she would cooperate. You guys remember that? But now it looks like things done changed. Shout out to Crew Reality. What's good with it, bro? All right. The deportation flight was blocked from leaving the U.S. after two Air Force C-17 flights, each carrying about 80 deportees to Guatemala, successfully took off Thursday night, NBC reported, citing two defense officials and a third person familiar with the situation. It was not immediately clear why Mexico blocked the plane. Now, I want to ask you guys this question. Why do you all think that Mexico blocked the plane? What do you guys think Mexico's reasoning was for blocking the plane? Let me know what you guys think. But tensions has flared up between Trump and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum since he threatened to slap 25% tariffs on Mexican goods in response to migrants illegally crossing the border. Now, let me ask you guys this question. Do you all think that these 25% tariffs will be an effective method of getting Mexico to abide by the Trump deportation and mass deportation policies? Let me know what you guys think. A White House official told the outlet via text message that the flight thing was an administrative issue and was quickly fixed. The flight rejection appeared to be over confusion over the Department of Defense flight manifest, according to Fox News' Bill Mulligan, who cited a senior department official. All right. Per the official, Mexico was full steam ahead to accept the deportation and would have had there not been a misunderstanding regarding the paperwork, he tweeted. About 2,000 illegal migrants were deported to the country Thursday, with the nation detaining around 5,000 within its own borders, Mulligan added. As of Friday night, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has made 593 arrests with 449 detainers lodged. All right. Trump on Monday declared a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border and restricted refugees and asylum, saying he wants to halt all illegal entry and border crime, designating cartels and organized migrant gangs as foreign terrorist organizations. Now, let me ask you guys this question. Do you all think that right there is extreme? If you guys think that that's extreme, give me a thumbs up. If you don't think that is extreme, give me a thumbs down. I don't think that that's extreme. I think that that's pretty normal. Let me ask you guys this. If a organized migrant gang and a cartel is not a foreign terrorist organization, what are they? What definition do they fit under? Federal officials swept into sanctuary cities, including Boston, Denver, Philadelphia, and Atlanta, on Trump's first day in office on Tuesday, nabbing about 308 illegal migrant criminals from more than a dozen nations. Okay, why were they all there to begin with? The Trump administration has dramatically loosened restrictions on how ICE can conduct deportation raids, removing bans on operating in courthouses, churches, and other places that illegal migrants had previously been shielded from immigration authorities. Now, let me ask you guys this question. When it comes to, quote unquote, this particular situation, are there any other, quote unquote, safe places where criminals can have sanctuary? So my question is, why is it that these particular criminals have sanctuary anywhere? That's my question. I didn't know that criminals should get sanctuary. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says the 47th president also deployed 1,500 active duty troops to the U.S.-Mexico border, with many given orders to fly helicopters to help Border Patrol agents and assist with constructing barriers. Acting Defense Secretary Robert Salesses said on Wednesday, the use of the military aircraft to carry out deportation flights is part of the Pentagon's plan to fulfill Trump's emergency declaration, marking the first time military planes have been used to transport deportees since President Dwight Eisenhower was in office, Reuters reported, citing an unnamed official. Thanks to President Trump, yesterday, Mexico accepted a record 4 deportation flights in one day. This comes in addition to an unrestricted return at the land border, the deportation of non-Mexicans, and reinstatement of remain in Mexico. Mexico has mobilized 30,000 National Guard, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told the Post. All right. So, yeah, when it comes to this mass deportation thing, it's in full swing. It's being delivered on. Now, again, we got to ask this question, right? Are people going to deliver on what they said that they were going to deliver on for wanting these mass deportations? That's my question. All right. I think that we should pay just as much attention to that as we pay to the actual mass deportations. All right. So we're going to talk about Chicago, all right, and Illinois, right? Because when we're talking about Illinois, we're talking about J.B. Pritzker, all right? When we're talking about Chicago, for the most part, we're talking about Brandon Johnson, right? Shout out to Black Spider. What's good with it? So we're going to see what Brandon Johnson and J.B. Pritzker have to say in regards to this. All right. Shout out to everybody watching. I appreciate you guys. If you all haven't smashed the like button yet, please do me a favor, take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys have not hit the bell, please take a moment, hit that bell, and also please share the stream to your social media. All right, let's check this out real quick. Let's check this out real quick.
I'm happy to take any questions from members of the media. We got Sheila in front.
Governor, and I hope that Mayor Johnson and Daniel can follow up. Mayor Johnson and Daniel and the governor, I wonder if you can talk about Donald Trump's attempts to dismantle DEI, given this setting that we're in, and what kind of effect, trickle-down effect it might have in state government or in the corporate world.
Well, DEI is, this idea of, a corporate term that occurs in, the back rooms of big corporations.
Now, let's start there. J.D. Pritzker says, quote unquote, DEI is this quote unquote big term that happens in the back room of corporations. Now, let me ask you guys this question. Is that a true statement or is that a false statement? And we're going to be going more into this quote unquote DEI thing on the Magatron channel. So if you guys are not subscribed to the Magatron channel, if the mods could put the link to Magatron in the chat and everybody hit that link, I would greatly appreciate it.
Wall Street and otherwise. The reality is that what they're trying to tear down is something much broader, and that's civil rights in the United States. That's what they're attacking. And the reality.
Now, let's ask this question. Let's talk about this. Is that true? I think that this needs to be explored before people come with an immediate answer. Now, J.B. Pritzker is sounding like a lot of people on YouTube. Right? Now, J.B. Pritzker is saying what a lot of people on YouTube are saying. But the people on YouTube don't really feel the Democrats. So why are they sounding like J.B. Pritzker then? We need to iron this out, right? Let's ask this question. How many people believe that what is going on right now is a quote-unquote dismantling of civil rights? If you guys agree with J.B. Pritzker and you believe that what's going on right now is a quote-unquote dismantling of civil rights, give me a thumbs up in the chat. If you disagree and you don't think that, then give me a thumbs down and let me know why.
The reality is, and I thought that former Mayor Emanuel said it correctly, the examples of the success of DEI are all around us in the city of Chicago, that we need to raise up businesses in communities that have been left out and left behind. There are examples all across the state of Illinois. Investments that need to be made in communities that are, frankly, underrepresented, underserved, and struggle. And yet we've been succeeding in Illinois, lifting up those businesses. But what the federal government...
Now, where are these records? Where are these examples of businesses being lifted up in Illinois, succeeding, quote unquote, DEI businesses? Where are they? Whose businesses are they? Is there anyone in the comment section that can tell me any example of one of these businesses that J.B. Pritzker is referring to right now?
Government is trying to do is attack what we've accomplished in Illinois and all across the United States. And we won't let them. I am not going to let them. And I'm unafraid to stand up for equity, which is what we're here celebrating today. Look at the success of the Will Group. Look at the success that's happening on the west side of Chicago. Yeah, sorry.
What's success on the west side of Chicago that J.B. Pritzker is directly involved with, or that Brandon Johnson is directly involved in? What are we talking about here? Where are the examples of these places? What business on the west side of Chicago is on the NASDAQ or on the New York Stock Exchange or a Fortune 500 company? What is he talking about here? Here's an even better example. Who from the west side of Chicago has created half of the wealth that the Pritzker family has? Let's use them as a benchmark. Let me ask you guys this question. How much money is the Pritzker family worth? Here's a better question. Why, when I start asking questions, does the live chat number drop? That's an even better question.
I saw Marianne. Yeah.
Could you also give us an update on what's going on with ICE and how you and the mayor perhaps are working on this together or not?
I don't have an update for you. The federal government has not communicated.
Shout out to Scotty D. Scotty D says, I work in an industry that is very dangerous, and DEI has made my daily life work more dangerous than it should be instead of giving it to the most qualified candidate. There you go. There you go.
With the state of Illinois. That is an indication to all of you that it's all about chaos and confusion. It is not about accomplishing something. And I've said many times, violent criminal.
Yeah. Shout out to Katsy, right? Katsy says, what exactly is a DEI business? That is a great question. We're like 4 questions behind, right? But let's add another one on there. What exactly is a DEI business? Shout out to Carlton. Carlton says the live number drops because people don't like questions. It makes them feel bad. It might be. Let's find out. If that's true, give me a thumbs up. If it's not true, give me a thumbs down. And look at that. As soon as I ask that question, there you go, Carlton.
Criminals who are undocumented in this country should be deported. There is a federal law that allows that deportation. But when we're talking about undocumented people who have been living law-abiding lives.
If you're undocumented, is that living a law-abiding life? Let's just start there. Let's just start with that. If you are undocumented, is that a law-abiding life?
About accomplishing something. And I've said many times, violent criminals who are undocumented in this country should be deported. There is a federal law that allows that deportation. But when we're talking about undocumented people who have been living law-abiding lives and raising families in the United States, we need comprehensive immigration reform. We need to give them an opportunity to stay in this country legally.
Let me ask you guys this. Does every person who enters the United States have the opportunity to enter legally? If they do, give me a thumbs up. If they don't, give me a thumbs down. When was the opportunity taken from them to enter the United States legally? So they, instead of attempting to enter legally, chose to enter illegally. Now, let me ask you guys this question. Other people who commit illegal acts, what choices do they get?
Documented in this country should be deported. There is a federal law that allows that deportation. But when we're talking about undocumented people who have been living law-abiding lives and raising families in the United States, we need comprehensive immigration reform. We need to give them an opportunity to stay in this country legally. That's clearly not something that Donald Trump believes.
Why? Why? They didn't do that for people who were selling weed. Why?
And I will stand up for.
I'm gonna tell you guys something. So when I ask these questions and the live number drops, that's the reason why people like Governor Pritzker do what they want to. When they have a whole bunch of people who either won't answer questions or who won't ask questions, you get done to you whatever those people want to do. That's how that works, right? That's how that works. Where does this line of rationale apply to anyone else who's violated the law or anyone else who breaks the law? There's people who haven't broken the law who get more scrutiny than this, right? Some people haven't even broken the law, and then they'll just create a law and stop what they're doing, hinder their progress, right? Until, quote unquote, laws have been rectified or until a quote unquote regulatory framework has been established. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about when I say until a quote unquote regulatory framework has been established, right? Shout out to James Sumler. What's good with it, bro? Shout out to Black Spider. What's good with you?
Residents of the state of Illinois who are abiding by the law, who are holding down jobs, who are paying taxes. I mean, we should stand up for them. That is the right thing to do. But he's trying.
You're not abiding by the law if you came into the country illegally. That you didn't abide by the law. And if you stay here illegally, you're still not abiding by the law. You know what I'm saying? Now, what's fascinating about this is that, people like J.B. Pritzker, they never get fact checked on any of these circular talking points that they ever make, right? And the thing about it is, the only thing that we're asking is just, let's make sense and let's use a line of logic, right? And if you break down what JB Pritzker is saying, he's not making any sense, and there's no logic. None. Okay? Shout out to everybody watching. I appreciate you guys. If you all have not smashed the like button yet, please do me a favor. Take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys have not hit the bell, please take a moment, hit that bell, and also please share the stream to your social media.
Trying to tear things down.
Governor, what's your response to people who might say that Democrats are the one sowing chaos, confusion, fear mongering by talking about massive deportations that haven't even happened in Chicago, like
what are you talking about? They are literally threatening people all across the country. How can you say that we're overreacting somehow? We're not. They're the ones, I'm talking about Donald Trump and his administration, Tom Homan, people at the Department of Homeland Security. They're the ones that are threatening people, again, who are law-abiding, who are often the anchors of their...
Again, let me ask you guys this question. Can anybody quote threats to law-abiding immigrants or migrants? What threats have been issued to those people?
Their communities who are paying taxes in this country, they're the ones who are threatening people. We're just standing up for people who live in our state and in our city. Yeah.
So the amount of money you're spending here, and by the way, great. This is a great achievement by Mr. Davis. Great work here.
Yeah, it's really the achievement of the entrepreneurs that should be celebrated. Yeah.
But rather than spending that amount of money, focusing here, the amount of money that you've spent on harboring illegals over the last 4 years and protecting them now, and after Mayor Johnson's email that just went out yesterday saying they're going to spend more money on protecting illegals at the expense of the American citizens, in particular the west side and the south side. You've got representatives here about Israel here. Why not invest that money there? And then the second question is...
No, sit down. I'm going to answer that question.
Do you see? Whoa. Did you see that? Again, I got to ask, who voted for this guy? Who voted for this guy? This is now JB Pritzker is acting like a lot of the people that get the questions here. I don't want to hear it. Maybe that's why people voted for that guy. See something is something in common, right? Anti-question, sentiments.
Yeah, it's really the achievement of the entrepreneurs that should be celebrated. Yeah.
But rather than spending that amount of money, focusing here, the amount of money that we've spent on harboring illegals over the last 4 years and protecting them now, and after Mayor Johnson's email that just went out yesterday.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Scotty. If you guys agree with Scotty, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. Scotty said, like I said, criminal illegal immigrants versus illegal immigrants. They are all criminals. Yeah, what is if you set this up like a math problem, criminal illegal immigrants versus illegal immigrants, if you factor everything out, you'll be left with criminal, and illegal immigrants is the common factor. If something is illegal, that makes the person that committed that act a criminal, right? You're either driving drunk or you're not. You ran the red light or you stopped. You don't get a different ticket if you slow through the red light, right? You don't get a ticket if you're driving tipsy. You know what I'm saying? You get a drunk DUI ticket if you're drunk or if you're tipsy, regardless of whatever that amount on the breathalyzer causes your mental state to be. There's no in between, right? You either ran the red light or you didn't. It doesn't matter if you ran the red light at 60 miles an hour. If you did, you might cause an accident, but you're still going to get in trouble for it. Or if you run it at 5 miles an hour, you still ran the red light, right?
Saying they're going to spend more money on protecting illegals at the expense of the American citizens, in particular the west side and the south side. We've got representatives here about Israel here. Why not invest that money there? And then the second question.
Shout out to AW1. AW1 says, yo, Rob, I hope that you and Torian link up again one day. Yeah, we probably will, bro. At some point. We definitely probably will.
No, sit down. I'm going to answer that question. Now, we're going to move on. Let me answer.
Let me ask you guys this. Why did JB Pritzker get so uptight when he was asked about this? When this question came up, why did he get so uptight? Why did he get so angry? Why do you want to rush this guy? Just be quiet. I got this. Why did that happen? You guys ever seen anybody act like that?
I'm going to answer your question. The money that we spend in the state of Illinois is about protecting the residents of the state of Illinois. That is what it is about. We will stand up for anybody who is standing up for the law. We follow the law in the state of Illinois. I'm very concerned that Donald Trump and the federal government is not going to be following the law. Indeed, they have proposed getting rid of birthright citizenship. For many families, imagine, I mean, my own family, many families that came to this country.
Look. So when it comes to a lot of the people and a lot of the people's interest in this, do you see what they always refer to? What do they always refer to? What do they refer back to? So because this affected you in this way, somehow it makes it right. Now, here's a question, right? If they were actually about the law, the way that they say they're about the law, when Joe Biden changed the law, right? Because we all know Joe Biden changed the law to create different qualifications for people being called asylees, right? And for special protected status. When Joe Biden changed those laws, if J.B. Pritzker is as much about the law as he says he is, how come he wasn't the first person questioning those changes? Because if you're about the law, any change in the law, any deviation in the law should be questioned for validity, right? But we see that didn't happen. Why didn't that happen?
No, sit down. I'm going to answer that question. Now we're going to move on. We're going to move on. Let me answer. I'm going to answer your question. The money that we spend in the state of Illinois is about protecting.
Shout out to my man, Hurricane IQ. What's good with it?
The residents of the state of Illinois. That is what it is about. We will stand up for anybody who is standing up for the law. We follow the law in the state of Illinois. I'm very concerned that Donald Trump and the federal government is not going to be following the law. Indeed, they have proposed getting rid of birthright citizenship. For many families, imagine, I mean, my own family, many families that came to this country years ago.
Now, I want you guys to pay very close attention to that part right there. Anytime you hear many of the people who advocate for this, do they use that line right there? Let me ask you guys this question. Name all of the politicians in the comment section who have used that exact same line. Anyone who you've heard attempting to justify their stance on this particular issue, who have used that particular talking point, drop the name in the comment section.
Right, who have made successful lives over many years. That opportunity.
Now, let me ask you guys this question. Did their families come in illegally or did they come in legally? Let's ask J.B. Pritzker's family. What laws did his family violate coming into the United States? Did they violate any laws at all? Or did they not? And if they didn't violate any laws, why are you comparing them to the people who are in question right now? I think that that's a valid question. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to everybody watching. I appreciate you guys. If you all have not smashed the like button yet, please take a moment, smash the like button. We got 22 people watching and we got 16 likes. We need, let me see, how many more do we need? We need 6 more people to hit the like button. So make sure 6 people hit the like button. If you guys haven't shared the stream, take a moment, share the stream to your social media. All right. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit the bell. All right. We're getting close to that 1-in-1 ratio. Let's try to get the likes to 38. I definitely appreciate it.
Would be completely cut off. It's unconstitutional what they're suggesting. It's in the Constitution that we protect birthright citizenship. We all ought to stand up for the Constitution. This president does not.
Why don't you collaborate with the Venezuelans? Why don't you collaborate with the vice with the Venezuelans?
Question over here. Thank you. We're going to protect the residents and the people of the city of Chicago. As a welcoming city, as a sanctuary state, our welcoming city ordinance, alongside of the complementary law of the Illinois Trust Act, is full demonstration of our commitment to protect the residents of this city. Any notion that would use public spaces like churches and schools, these sanctities, these sanctuaries, as a way to create political divide is not only unconscionable, but it's reprehensible. And what we have done, we have given very clear instructions to our sister agencies in all of our city departments that they should and will and are expected to uphold our welcoming city ordinance. We are not going to interfere, but we're certainly not going to cooperate with that type of abhorrent behavior. Yes, ma'am.
What is your direct message to immigrants here in the city of Chicago during this time of very much uncertainty in terms of possible immigration or deportation?
Yeah. I'm going to speak to our immigrant population as well as the entire city of Chicago. The city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, we are a welcoming city and we are a sanctuary city.
Now, let me ask you guys this question. How many, they referenced the 14th Amendment, right? As it applies to the Constitution, did the 14th Amendment have anything to do with immigration? What did the 14th Amendment have to do with immigration? Besides the fact that the 14th Amendment was saying that, quote unquote, immigrants are not allowed to own people in the United States as property, and those people have the same rights as everybody else. So as the 14th Amendment applies to immigrants, the 14th Amendment was a restriction on what immigrants could do to people who were in the United States. Immigrants who called themselves Americans are not allowed to own other people who classify as Americans. That's what the 4th Amendment or the 14th Amendment was, and that's how the 14th Amendment applied to immigration. Because the people who benefited or who were supposed to benefit from the 14th Amendment could not be classified as immigrants. The people who owned those people were immigrants and subsequent generations of immigrants. If this is true, give me a thumbs up. If this is false, give me a thumbs down. If you ask me, the 14th Amendment needs to be retroactively corrected. A correction on the 14th Amendment would take care of any of these nonsensical talking points. Why hasn't that been done yet? That's my question. Why has that not been done yet? If it hasn't been done yet, how can it get taken care of? Let me ask you guys a question. Who would be responsible for doing something like that? Because somebody should do something like that. That's very simple. And it's correct. Who could debunk it? I'll tell you what, this is why it hasn't been done yet. Quiet as church mice. You know what I'm saying?
Why don't you collaborate with the Trent Larger on the Venezuelans? Why don't you collaborate with ICE with the Trent Larger on the Venezuelans?
Question over here. Thank you.
You talk about how I'm not able to go carry out coverage of the Can you talk about what steps, if any, American
We're going to protect the residents and the people of the city of Chicago. As a welcoming city, as a sanctuary state, our welcoming city ordinance, alongside of the complementary law of the Illinois Trust Act, is full demonstration of our commitment to protect the residents of the city. Any notion that would use public spaces like churches and schools, these sanctities, these sanctuaries, as a way to create political divide is not only unconscionable, but it's reprehensible. And what we have done, we have given very clear instructions to our sister agencies in all of our city departments that they should and will and are expected to uphold our welcoming city ordinance. We are not going to interfere, but we're certainly not going to cooperate with that type of abhorrent behavior.
So now here's my question, right? If J.B. Pritzker literally just stood up here and said, yes, criminal undocumented migrants should be deported. If he just stood there and said that, my question then is, why would you not, at the very least, assist with getting the criminals out? Why would you not do that?
Yes, ma'am.
It's going to be the last one.
What is your direct message to immigrants here in the city of Chicago during this time of very much uncertainty in terms of possible immigration or deportation?
Yeah. I'm going to speak to our immigrant population as well as the entire city of Chicago. The city of Chicago and the state.
Brandon Johnson can't even call the people of Chicago citizens. You guys notice that? If you guys notice that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't notice that, give me a thumbs down. Brandon Johnson is not even able to call the United States population, or I'm sorry, the population in Chicago citizens. That's kind of concerning, right? I would say that that's kind of a concern. Who voted for this guy?
City departments that they should and will and are expected to uphold our welcoming city ordinance. We are not going to interfere, but we're certainly not going to cooperate with that type of abhorrent behavior. Yes, ma'am.
What is your direct message to immigrants here in the city of Chicago during this time of very much uncertainty in terms of possible immigration or deportation?
Yeah. I'm going to speak to our immigrant population as well as the entire city of Chicago. The city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, we are a welcoming city and we are a sanctuary city.
Let me ask you guys this question. How welcoming is Chicago to quote unquote American citizens? I think that that's a question that should be explored. Right? How welcoming is Chicago to American citizens? The mayor can't even say American citizens, and he made a special designation for immigrants. What he could have done if he wanted to go that route is just say the entire city of Chicago, right? That's what he could have did, but he didn't do that. Who voted for this guy?
We are a sanctuary and welcoming state. That has not changed because of who won the election. And that's not going to change. What I can speak to in a far more broader way, that any of the measures that the president is looking to execute against working people in the city of Chicago, we will defend our city. It's just that simple. We will defend their rights to have a high quality public education. He is working to dismantle the Department of Education. We will defend our rights to protect our environment. He's a president who does not believe in environmental justice and climate change. We will defend our rights to continue to build more affordable homes.
And what is environmental justice? Well, I don't think a lot of people even know what's going on here or what Brandon Johnson is talking about. A couple years ago, I did a video about Cori Bush, right? Cori Bush tweeted, and you guys can look this tweet up. Climate justice is racial justice. What is that? What are we talking about here? Climate justice is racial justice. Cori Bush said that. Now, as you guys know, Cori Bush is no longer employed at her former post, right? But climate justice is racial justice. What does that mean? Cori Bush said this. Cori Bush from Missouri. What does that mean? Shout out to the people watching on Rumble, or the person watching on Rumble. All right. There's a person that's he's upset that there's not very many people watching on Rumble. So if some of you guys want to go over there and entertain him and like the video and share the video over there, that would be great. All right. I'm gonna put the link in the chat for you. All right. So go give him some company.
I will say this last thing. The president has the level of power that other administrations wish they had. The House of Representatives, the United States Senate.
What does that have to do with anything? Let me ask you guys this question. Trump is coming in. What? He's got a full house, right? Everybody's conservative. Isn't that the same thing that Obama came into? So it's not a matter of wishing. It's a matter of campaigning, campaign promising, creating a narrative that people relate to, and winning the election. It's not about wishing. You don't rub on a genie bottle and become the president, right? If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down.
Rights to protect our environment. He's a president who does not believe in environmental justice and climate change. We would defend our rights to continue to build more affordable homes. I will say this last thing. The president has the level of power that other administrations wish they had. The House of Representatives, the United States Senate, the judicial branch of government. If he's serious about making America a place where every single individual can have an opportunity, then he should use his authority to work with the city of Chicago to build more affordable homes. He has the ability to help invest in building more economic opportunities like you're experiencing right here on the west side of the city of Chicago.
Who's experiencing these economic opportunities on the west side of Chicago? Who? Shout out to the people from Chicago, right? I know we got some people from Chicago watching. If there's anybody from Chicago who can find a business owner who's experiencing a Brandon Johnson or J.B. Pritzker initiated economic improvement in their life, please refer them to the channel so that we can interview them and ask them how they got it. Okay?
We are going to defend the interests of working people, and we're very proud to do that. Thank you all very much.
What about the illegals that are victimizing the citizens?
Did you hear that last question? What about the illegals, quote unquote, that are victimizing the citizens?
What about the illegals that are victimizing the citizens?
So you see when they decided to walk out, right? You guys see when they decided to walk out. All right, so next, what we're going to do, hey, shout out to my man, John Guillory. I appreciate you, bro. We are 1 out of 10 on the goal. Make sure you guys throw some targets in the chat, throw some flames, some radiation emojis, some ducks in the chat for John Guillory for funding the organization. Definitely appreciate you, bro. John Guillory says, Brandon Johnson is a horrible mayor. On a side note, Toshi 2x my money today. Facts. You know what I'm saying? I was able to take out my principal, and I'm playing with house money now. Hey, let's play house. Y'all remember that? Shout out to the Dog Pound. Let's play house. Who is that? Nate Dogg on the hook? Yeah, man. Hey, but you know what they say though, man? No, no crypto talk. No crypto talk unless it's tales from the cryptocurrency. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Toshi, man. Throw some $sign Toshis in the chat. Yeah, 2x your money, man. Facts.
How do you think that we fund this organization, huh? We're not exactly the March of Dimes.
Big fact. Shout out to you. Make sure you guys show John some love. Definitely appreciate it. All right. So let's take a look at this. Let's do like Kevin Hart. Let's look at this. Let's look at this right here. Let's look at this. Let's look at this right here.
I guess we have to start with what's going on across the country as well as in Illinois right now. What do you see your role as the governor of Illinois with the Trump administration?
Well, let me start with or without the Trump administration. My role is to protect the people of Illinois, to raise their standard of living, to make life better for Illinois families, and to grow this state. And that's what we've been doing. Now, we have a challenge ahead because the new president clearly wants to attack places like Illinois, where he didn't win the election. And it's going to be challenging.
There's not too many places where he didn't win the election, right? Let me ask you guys this question. Can anybody name the places where the president, quote unquote, didn't win the election at? Name the places where he didn't win the election at. I'll tell you one place he won the election at, the United States of America. That's one, right?
Challenging for working families across our state, for the most vulnerable across our state and across the country. And so my job is to stand up for what is the law of Illinois, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make life more affordable, to protect people from having their rights taken away. That's my job. And his job should be to follow the law. And I would expect that he would, but already he has proposed something that's unconstitutional and other things that I think are really bad for working families.
You're referring, I'm sure, to birthright citizenship?
Indeed. And also the tariffs that he wants to impose that are just going to raise prices for families.
Let's just go back just a second, though, about how it'll impact Illinois. How will your budget be impacted? Because what I understand is some state agencies have already been told, hey, that federal money that you had last year, you're not going to get it this year.
Well, that's not true yet. We haven't been notified that things that we were getting last year won't come. We expect it, however, that there are things that will be under attack. For example, Donald Trump for many years has been trying to get rid of the expansion of healthcare, right? The Obamacare, as you know it, the ACA. And it is truly a challenge for hundreds of thousands of people that they might have their healthcare taken away by this new federal administration. So this is a problem, right? It's not something that the state of Illinois cannot fill in the billions of dollars that come with Medicaid coverage, where 50% of it is covered by the federal government. We just can't. We don't have those dollars. So if that is something that he does that takes away health care from people in the state of Illinois, it is Donald Trump that is ruining the opportunity for people to live healthy lives in our state.
Might the red line extension be impacted?
Well, we'll see. That money was awarded.
Shout out to Hurricane IQ. I appreciate you, bro. Make sure you all show Hurricane IQ some love. Throw some flames, some radiation emoji, some ducks, some darts in the chat for Hurricane. We are 2 out of 10. We need 8 more. That's what's good, man. I know we can get it. Shout out to Hurricane. Hurricane says, I'll join on the goal for old time's sake. Can I hear some Anton, please? Oh, you need some. I got you, bro. You talk about JB Pritzker? He dumb.
So dumb. You are really dumb. For real. Oh, you are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
For old time's sake. Shout out to you, bro, for funding the organization. I appreciate you.
How do you think that we fund this organization, huh? We're not exactly the March of Dimes.
He done. JD Pritzker is done. He really done, for real.
He has announced that he's freezing, the awards that were made. Having said that, those were done under the prior administration. Everything that was necessary to make that happen has been done. And so it's just a question of whether Donald Trump is going to stand in the way. There will be lawsuits if he does. We certainly know that the federal government.
Now we're gonna, if we get time, right, we're gonna talk about some of these lawsuits. All right, because I don't know if people are aware. We briefly brushed over this yesterday, but we didn't get into the details of it. I want to say about 20 states have sued the Trump administration over this. Which, listen, I want you guys to pay attention. This is what it looks like for Democrats going hard in the paint. This is what it looks like when the Democrats are going hard in the paint. Everybody should make a mental note of that, right? If you guys agree, everybody should make a mental note of that. And listen, if you are a Democrat or if you vote Democrat, I'm not mad at you, right? You can go ahead and vote Democrat, right? However, my expectation would be that you have the expectation that your vote will get you the Democrats going as hard in the paint for you as they are for people who are not even allowed to vote for them. So those people didn't contribute to any office that they got. If you guys would agree, that's fair. Give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree and you don't think that's fair, let me know why it's not fair.
Government owes us that money now. And again, Donald Trump may break the law because he's known to do that. And we're going to have to take him to court if he does.
Who is your contact? Who is your call at DC where you say, help? I mean, you certainly had many in the Biden administration. Who's your person now that you say, who are we going to deal with on all of this?
Well, let's start with the new Trump administration and people in his administration. They haven't called us to connect with us. We're one of the 50 states that he represents and serves. And I would expect that they too would reach out to us. In terms of, if we need to lobby the administration for something, there are plenty of people that are in the state of Illinois, business people, for example, who supported Donald Trump, who we know and who want to do what's best for the state of Illinois. And so we'll work with his allies that are in our state to get done what we need.
You're confident that that Illinois is not going to miss out because of this difficult relationship you and Trump personally have?
That shouldn't be the case. I mean, if Donald Trump decides that he wants to punish people or states, right, which is not something that presidents do. You didn't see Joe Biden do that. There were plenty of opportunities to do that. He didn't, right? He delivered.
What would you guys say about that? I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
Things for red states as well as blue states, but Donald Trump may not be that even-handed. In fact, Donald Trump, again, over and over demonstrates that he'll do whatever's in his own best interests, whatever's in the best interests of his.
Let me ask you guys this question. Was Joe Biden pardoning Hunter Biden in Joe Biden's best interest? Let me ask you guys this question. Who benefited from Joe Biden lying, saying that he would not pardon his son, to him then pardoning his son? Did anybody at all anywhere other than Hunter Biden and the Biden family benefit from that? So these are a double standard, right? We're going to say this about one individual, but then when the other individual does the same thing, we're not going to mention it.
Wealthy allies, and not necessarily in the interests of ordinary, everyday families in our state.
Let's talk about yesterday, the events that took place in Elon Musk. You've said that Elon Musk should apologize. However, the ADL does not see it as a Nazi salute. What is the difference of what you see and what you think the ADL sees?
This is interesting. This is interesting. Now, we got to tackle this, right? Why is there a difference? The ADL sees something different than J.D. Pritzker and a lot of other people. Because like I said, there's a lot of people on YouTube sounding just like a Democrat, right? Some of these YouTubers, they sounding just like a Democrat.
Just like Obama. That's because some of you niggas, you be acting just like a woman. Nigga, Reaper keep it 1,000.
gotta plug my man Reaper, man. Shout out to the Reaper, keeping it 1,000. JD Pritzker ain't keeping it 1,000. You know what I'm saying?
Going to miss out because of this difficult relationship you and Trump personally have.
That shouldn't be the case. I mean, if Donald Trump decides that he wants to punish people or states, right, which is not something that presidents do. You didn't see Joe Biden do that. There were plenty of opportunities to do that. He didn't, right? He delivered things for red states as well as blue states. But Donald Trump may not be that even-handed. In fact, Donald Trump, again, over and over demonstrates that he'll do whatever's in his own best interests, whatever's in the best interests of his wealthy allies, and not necessarily in the interests of ordinary, everyday families in our state.
Now, let me ask you guys this question. Whose interest was it in for the city of Chicago to pay $212 million to favorite healthcare and put the city in a $1 billion budget and then attempt to raise the taxes on the citizens of Chicago? Whose interest was that in? Because that did happen, right? We're not making things up. These are indeed things that happened, right? So whose interest was that in? I think that's a good question. I think that's a question that, you know, J.B. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson should answer, right? Shout out to you guys. I appreciate you guys. We got 22 people watching and we got 24 likes. We're on the 1-to-1 ratio. All right. Throw some 100s in the chat. Make sure if you guys haven't smashed the like button, you smashed the like button yet, or you smashed the like button. Let's try to get the likes to 40.
Let's talk about yesterday, the events that took place in Elon Musk. You've said that Elon Musk should apologize. However, the ADL does not see it as a Nazi salute. What is the difference of what you see and what you think the ADL sees?
Well, anybody that watches that video saw him do it not once, but twice. And even if it was inadvertent, it's a clear, symbol and gesture that everybody knows. You would have recognized it. I recognized it. Anybody that studied history recognizes it.
So, but the ADL didn't recognize it. Now, let me ask you guys this question. Ethnically speaking, should the majority of people at the ADL, quote unquote, recognize what J.B. Pritzker is talking about? So why don't J.B. Pritzker and the leaders of the ADL have a sit down and debate about the failure of recognition? Right? J.D. Pritzker should be debating this with the ADL if he doesn't agree. Right?
I guarantee Elon Musk knew what it was. He may have mistakenly done it. And by the way, people make mistakes. He should apologize. And President Trump should call it out too. It was his rally. These are people who were on stage because he asked them to be. And he should say something about it, denounce it. And again, that.
Apologize, denounce. Apologize, denounce. Apologize, denounce. Apologize, denounce. Does anybody see a pattern with the way any of these things go?
Something simple for each one of them to do. Neither one has done it.
Have you been as outspoken when members of the CTU have also expressed?
Shout out to Carlton. Carlton said the ADL got off code. If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. I actually think that they're on code, right? If you ask me, they're on code because you got them saying one thing, right? And they're the official branch. And then they got all the other unofficial mouthpieces saying the other thing. And really what they're doing is going at public. Both sides are going at public opinion while avoiding each other. That's the code right there for how, you know what I'm saying, a lot of that stuff over there goes down, right? That is that code. We'll create a situation. We'll address everybody addressing the situation. Despite the fact that we have opposing opinions, the thing that we'll be united in is opportunizing on everybody's opposition to the opposition point. You know what I'm saying? If you ask me, that's a form of code. You know what I'm saying?
Anti-Semitic remarks.
Oh, I have spoken out. I mean, they know, and I have spoken directly with members of the CTU whenever there has been something said that was anti-Semitic. Look, I call out racism, any kind of attack on people.
How did we go from one? How did we go from that to that? Let me ask you guys this question. By his logic, right? Let's play the logic game. Who would say that migrants are being treated better than quote unquote American citizens in Chicago? Migrants are racking up a lot of bills. American citizens, they're on the chopping block to have to pay these bills, right? Let me ask you guys this question. Does it seem like there's a punishment being levied on particular people in Chicago based on their ethnicity? Seems like it costs a lot more if you happen to be an American citizen in Chicago. Now, how he made the comparison there, can we say that that's a form of a quote-unquote ism? Is that an ism? So what's he doing to call out that ism? It doesn't seem like he's doing much to call out that ism, right? This is based on his logic.
Well, anybody that watches that video saw him do it not once, but twice. And even if it was inadvertent, it's a clear, symbol and gesture that everybody knows. You would have recognized it. I recognized it. Anybody that studied history recognizes it. I guarantee Elon Musk knew what it was. He may have mistakenly done it. And by the way, people make mistakes. He should apologize. And President Trump should call it out too. It was his rally. These are people who were on stage because he asked them to be. And he should say something about it, denounce it. And again, that's something simple for each one of them to do. Neither one has done it.
Have you been as outspoken when members of the CTU have also expressed anti-Semitic remarks?
Oh, I have spoken out. I mean, they know, and I have spoken directly with members of the CTU whenever there has been something said that was anti-Semitic. Look, I call out racism, any kind of attack on people, at people's ethnicity, their background, etc. It's uncalled for. It's inappropriate. It shouldn't happen. And as you know, I'm somebody who helped and led the building of a Holocaust museum. So this is something that matters.
That to me sounds like, you're proud of your background and its history. I don't know what that has to do with quote unquote the fight for quote unquote everybody, unless his everybody is people related to that, right? Who is your everybody? Who is your everybody, right? When it comes to quote unquote all lives matter for somebody like J.B. Pritzker, who are all of the lives that he's talking about? Because all just means 100%. 100% of who? I think he just said it. Right? If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down.
And he should say something about it, denounce it. And again, that's something simple for each one of them to do. Neither one has done it.
Have you been as outspoken when members of the CTU have also expressed anti-Semitic remarks?
Oh, I have spoken out. I mean, they know, and I have spoken directly with members of the CTU whenever there has been something said that was anti-Semitic. Look, I call out racism, any kind of attack on people.
Now, again, this is something that a lot of the immigrants and a lot of the migrants should pay attention to, right? I thought that this was about them. I thought that this discussion was strictly about the migrants. All of a sudden, it's not now. How did that happen? At first, we were talking about the migrants. Somehow, magically, now it's not about the migrants. What happened? You know what I'm saying? What happened?
People's ethnicity, their background, etc. It's uncalled for. It's inappropriate. It shouldn't happen. And as you know, I'm somebody who helped and led the building of a Holocaust museum. So this is something that matters deeply to me, protecting our people from that kind of discrimination. So yes, I've called it out and I always will.
On deportations, you have said you're going to have to come through me. What does that mean?
It wasn't on deportations. I know that was misinterpreted by people. It was broadly about people's rights. Yeah, it includes, the issue of people's immigration rights being taken away, but it also includes their reproductive rights, and it also includes attacks on people with disabilities, which we were celebrating a victory for here in the state this morning, but could get taken away at the federal level. These are all things that we as a state need to stand up for, push back, whether it's going to court, whether it's speaking out about these things or passing our own laws to protect people.
What are your concerns as far as ICE? What might happen? Have you gotten any kind of intel for folks to be prepared?
Yeah, we've done a lot to begin with to make sure that people know their rights. Lots of people didn't already know their rights. They didn't know, for example, that we have a law in the state of Illinois that allows somebody who's undocumented to put their children, who are citizens perhaps or documented, in the custody of or guardianship of someone else. We have laws that allow them to do that.
Would there, make it make sense? Shout out to Thunder OU Sooner. Is that Oklahoma University Sooner? Thunder OU Sooner says illegal immigrants do not have rights. They broke the law by crossing the border illegally. Yeah. If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down. Now, what Thunder said, literally that's the same thing that Eric Adams said, right? How many people remember when Eric Adams said that? Rights are what citizens have. Somehow, that's now a controversial statement. Here's my question. What's the purpose of any of the laws, or what's the purpose of any, the Constitution or any of that, if there's no boundary between what makes somebody an American versus what doesn't make them an American? Listen, if you do not have a Sam's Club card and you go in Sam's Club and attempt to shop, in most cases they'll let you shop, but do you get the same rights and privileges as a card holding Sam's Club member? These things are not as complicated as they make it out to be. Now, what if somebody says, well, it's a moral argument. I need the savings of the Sam's Club to be able to feed my family, so I demand that Sam's Club gives me the same discount as card-carrying Sam Club members. The people who pay for a membership are going to be like, yo, this is crazy. What am I paying for a membership for if you're just letting people walk in and get the same discount? It's a club. Right? So why is that not how it is in this situation? Why is that not how it is in this situation?
While they go through an immigration process, we've done a lot, I think, to make sure that we're speaking out about these issues so the federal government understands what the laws are in the state of Illinois. Our law enforcement are not coordinating with ICE officials, for example, and again, what they're coordinating on is they are coordinating on violent criminals who've been convicted, who are undocumented. As far as I'm concerned, we need to give them over to ICE, and they should be deported.
So again, I want you guys to. So where's the conflict? You guys hear what JB Pritzker is saying. He doesn't disagree with the priorities of Trump's deportation efforts. So again, I have to ask this question: where is the conflict? What is all of this? Right? Where is the conflict at? Shout out to everybody watching. I appreciate you guys. We got 18 people watching and we got 24 likes. We need 6 people to get back onto the 1-to-1 ratio. All right. So help us out with that. If you haven't liked the video, take a moment, smash that like button. Still try to hit 40 likes.
Through an immigration process. We've done a lot, I think, to make sure that we're speaking out about these issues so the federal government understands what the laws are in the state of Illinois. Our law enforcement are not coordinating with ICE officials, for example, and again, what they're coordinating on is they are coordinating on violent criminals who've been convicted, who are undocumented. As far as I'm concerned, we need to give them over to ICE and they should be deported. That's the law, by the way, of the United States.
Again, I don't know if you guys are, I'm asking, where is the conflict? Yeah, exactly. Facts. If you guys agree with Hurricane, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. Hurricane says if he was about that, then he would be cooperating with ICE. Facts. Facts. Again, with what he just said right there, where is the conflict? What he just said, that group of individuals is literally the focal point, right? Now, mind you, they talked about the collaterals, right? But the collaterals will make up a small part, right? But that is literally the focus of these mass deportation operations, at least according to Trump and according to Tom Homan. So again, I keep asking, where's the conflict? So what is Brandon Johnson doing? What is JB Pritzker doing? What are they doing? And honestly, what JB Pritzker right here said, you don't even hear Brandon Johnson say anything like this. Brandon Johnson doesn't think that any of them should go. Who voted for Brandon Johnson? Who voted for JB Pritzker? Who put these people in charge?
We also want to make sure that, for someone gets pulled over for speeding and they get a ticket, that they're not arrested because they're undocumented simply for getting a speeding ticket.
Now, what if you get what if you get pulled over and you have a bag of cocaine on your seat? What if you get pulled over and you got a Zippo Loud sitting on your seat? I mean, you should just get your ticket then, right? What if you get pulled over and you got a body in the trunk? You just get pulled over, right? What if you get pulled over and your plates are expired? What about all those scenarios that I just gave? Here's my question to you guys. How are those scenarios different than what JB Pritzker is presenting? In most cases, if you get pulled over or if you get detained by law enforcement, hey, you might be detained for jaywalking, but if they pull a training day on you and you happen to cough up a little baggie of crack like Snoop Dogg did, now you're getting that charge added onto your jaywalking. It's not, we just are here to arrest you for jaywalking, right? So why is it not like that everywhere else? Who's holding these people to any standard? Who's directly attacking their arguments?
That's not something a law enforcement officer should do.
What if a law enforcement agency, if perhaps a county sheriff, McHenry, has been more willing to say they would be helpful? What about those police agencies that might help ICE? Would they face some kind of violation of state law?
Yeah, they better not break the law. These are law enforcement officers. They shouldn't break the law. We will go after them. The attorney general will. We have the ability to make sure that those people are punished if they're breaking the law. The law enforcement officers.
We should actually pay attention to how Chicago goes after, quote unquote, these particular ICE agents that they claim may be breaking the law. Because then we'll have to see, well, do they go after other, quote unquote, law enforcement officers who, quote unquote, break the law like that? If you ask me, we're probably not going to see that. And the reason why we're probably not going to see that is because, as you guys can see, as it's demonstrated here, there is no application of a standard. And nobody's enforcing an application of a standard or even testing one. So people shouldn't be surprised when this kind of stuff flies. Make no mistake, the people who complain about this stuff are the ones who permitted it to fly. You cannot live life as a spectator and expect participant results. That'll never happen anywhere. If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down.
We don't expect them to. We think they're going to follow the law. Even the sheriff said he's going to follow the law, but he's upset because he feels like his hands are tied. Here's what I want. I want criminals off the streets. I want law enforcement officers to do their job and make sure that they arrest people that are committing crimes. But undocumented people who are actually law-abiding, who are holding down jobs, they shouldn't be arrested.
Undocumented people, people, hypothetically, that he just described have already broken 2 laws. They came into the country illegally and they're working illegally. They've committed immigration crimes, now by default committing immigration and financial crimes. But he's talking about the legalities of all of this. He's talking about the legalities of all of this. Yeah, shout out to James Sumler. James Sumler says every criminal lawyer should pay attention to this. Yeah, facts, because the laymen don't. Look how the live numbers keep going down. The laymen don't, you know what I'm saying? So criminal lawyer, yeah, if you got your Juris Doctorate, come holler at me.
Simply because they're undocumented.
Have you and the mayor spoken about the possibility of ICE raids, and how did that conversation go?
We really haven't. I mean, he called me on my birthday, which was very nice, and wished me a happy birthday. And I, of course, mentioned that I knew that, we were preparing, that he was preparing. But I've spoken directly with law enforcement in the state of Illinois, not just the Illinois State Police, but also the Chicago Police Department, to make sure that everybody is operating properly in an environment in which Donald Trump is trying to scare our communities. By the way, this is bad for our economy. What Donald Trump is doing, and I saw it firsthand when I was walking around.
Speaking of trying to scare people, when's the last time anybody heard anything about Project 2025? When's the last time anybody heard anything about Project 2025? Anybody heard anything recently about Project 2025?
On Martin Luther King Day in Little Village, you could see the restaurants were
up there. Now, whose ears is he trying to perk up? And he will be successful at perking people's ears up by saying that. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted, man. People on that quality control, you know what I'm saying? That MK Ultra, that mind control works. We've seen it for 60 years. It's not a debate. It's a fact. That's all you got to do is mention something like that. And all of a sudden, everybody's doing backflips and you got everybody talking like Democrats. Not too many people talk like independents that are actually independent. I think that actual independents are a dying breed. Let me ask you guys this question. Why does that work so well? That whole Martin Luther King Day, Martin Luther King thing, that's a talking point that a lot of YouTubers used. a lot of YouTubers who say they're not concerned with symbolism. So how are you not concerned with symbolism and you're drawing a conclusion based on that? But symbolism is of no concern. That's a symbol, right? So that was a symbol recognized by the anti-symbol people. I don't understand it. Can somebody explain it to me? Because that is indeed a popular talking point that a lot of people who claim that they're against the Democrats used, right? And here we go. A big, chunky, hefty Democrat right up here in this interview using that talking point. So somebody explain. Anybody got the deets? What's up with it?
Enforcement agency, if perhaps a county sheriff, McHenry, has been more willing to say they would be helpful. What about those police agencies that might help ICE? Would they face some kind of violation of state law?
Yeah, they better not break the law. These are law enforcement officers. They shouldn't break the law. We will go after them. The attorney general will. We have the ability to make sure that those people are punished if they're breaking the law. The law enforcement officers, we don't expect them to. We think they're going to follow the law. Even the sheriff said he's going to follow the law, but he's upset because he feels like his hands are tied. Here's what I want. I want criminals off the streets. I want law enforcement officers to do their job and make sure that they arrest people that are committing crimes, but undocumented people who are actually law.
So if that's the case, then J.B. Pritzker should not have a problem with detaining Trinidad Aragua members and turning Trinidad Aragua members over to ICE. And they could do that. Listen, you know, we disagree with part of your deportation policy, right? We're not going to help you deport non-criminal migrants. Anyone who is a migrant who's committed a crime and they're in the prison system or they're in the criminal justice system, we will hand those individuals over to you. You'll have to work for the other ones. We won't get in your way, but we're not going to hand them over to you in the way that we're handing over the criminals. What's the problem with doing something like that? Let me ask you guys this question. You guys are way backed up on questions, by the way, but we're going to keep them coming anyway. Who would have a problem with something like that? If you guys would have a problem with something like that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys wouldn't, give me a thumbs down. I think that's what Eric Adams is doing. Eric Adams hasn't come out as a full-on conservative. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Now, you know, he said that he's going to work with Trump, but he's not fully working with Trump. He said, yeah, we'll get the criminals off the street. I'm not really going to do too much in the way of handing other people over. Now, this is the all or nothing nature, right, of the Democrats, because the Democrats are talking about Eric Adams like he got a red, you know, Kango MAGA hat on, right? But he's not talking like that. He's saying, hey, I'm all about getting the criminals out off the street. Everybody else is just business as usual. That's about the gist of what Eric Adams has said. If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. Now, you know, people say that he's doing this to try to get a pardon. If you ask me, he would have turned full on shill if he was trying to get a pardon, right? There would be no resistance. He's not fully on board with this. If he was shilling for Trump, now not for the Democrats, because we know Eric Adams has a history of shilling for the Democrats, right? But if he was shilling for Trump, he would be on board. I'm going to do whatever you say. That's not what's happening. It's not what he said. So my thing is, why don't all the sanctuary cities do what Eric Adams is doing? If you ask me, Eric Adams is actually working with the Trump administration. I'm not going to do everything, but I'll give you this. And, you know, I don't really see them going at Eric Adams all like that. But again, you know, I've always said this. Eric Adams and Trump are cool behind the scenes, but that's neither here nor there, right? That's speculation. What we've seen in the public eye is what we've seen. Shout out to Brooklyn Queen. What's good with the Brooklyn Queen? Make sure y'all listen to Brooklyn Queen. You know what I'm saying? Hit that up. Shout out to you, Brooklyn Queen, mod extraordinaire. Definitely appreciate you. I think that would be more practical. I think it would make sense. Getting the criminal migrants out of the picture would actually probably create a more safe situation for non-criminal migrants, because we'll see how people have been paying attention. Who do the criminal migrants commit the majority of violent crimes against? Let me know in the comment section.
Law-abiding, who are holding down jobs, they shouldn't be arrested simply because they're undocumented.
Have you and the mayor spoken about the possibility of ICE raids, and how did that conversation go?
We really haven't. I mean, he called me on my birthday, which was very nice, and wished me a happy birthday. And I, of course, mentioned that I knew that, we were preparing, that he was preparing. But I've spoken directly with law enforcement in the state of Illinois, not just the Illinois State Police, but also the Chicago Police Department, to make sure that everybody is operating properly in an environment in which Donald Trump is trying to scare our communities. By the way, this is bad for our economy, what Donald Trump is doing. And I saw it firsthand when I was walking around on Martin Luther King Day.
Walking around on Martin Luther King Day. And it does look like J.B. Pritzker only walks around one day a year, right? But that's neither here nor there, right? Now, let me ask you guys this question. Is $1 billion budget good for Chicago's economy? I think that there's a lot of aldermen and a lot of other people that disagreed. I don't think that a lot of people think that $1 billion budget is a good thing for Chicago's economy. I don't think that that's the case.
Spoken directly with law enforcement in the state of Illinois, not just the Illinois State Police, but also the Chicago Police Department, to make sure that everybody is operating properly in an environment in which Donald Trump is trying to scare our communities. By the way, this is bad for our economy, what Donald Trump is doing. And I saw it firsthand when I was walking around on Martin Luther King Day in Little Village. You could see the restaurants were relatively empty. When I asked.
Now, I'm going to tell you guys something. You guys hear that? You guys hear what J.B. Pritzker said? Make no mistake. That kind of talk is what got him votes from a whole bunch of people. Why did that get him votes from a whole bunch of people? Why did people vote for somebody for simply repeating, saying things like that? So let me ask you guys this. If people have discovered a way to completely remove your rationale in decision-making by simply saying a trigger statement, are you predictable? So in order to get people in a predictable, controllable state of mind or mind frame, all you got to do is just say the trigger word. That got J.B. Pritzker a lot of people's votes. People won't admit it. They'll leave and go hang their heads the way that they should. But you guys know that it's true. The fact that people can't acknowledge and come to grips with that, all people are doing is prolonging the problem. If you ask me, the problem's been going on long enough, but I'm clearly unpopular in that belief. I'm clearly unpopular in that belief, which is fine. There was a point when Satoshi was unpopular. Now Satoshi is very popular. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. A lot of things that I say are unpopular. But when they become popular, there's not going to be anything anybody can do about it.
the owners why on a day off that people aren't in the restaurants enjoying themselves. They said because people are staying home, they're afraid. And so I want to encourage people to go patronize those restaurants and in that way stand up for the communities.
Who's not going out to eat because they're scared? Any of you guys not going out to eat because you're scared? Anybody in Chicago not going out to eat because they're scared? If you're in the Chicago area and you're terrified to go out to eat, please let us know.
That are most under duress right now because of Donald Trump.
So your relationship with the mayor hasn't had a huge fallout over the hemp legislation?
Well, I've told the mayor that he mishandled it, that whenever you're going to come to my house, come to Springfield, and you want to lobby against a piece of legislation, which, by the way, was the wrong position to take.
Now listen to J.B. Pritzker talking about your boy Brandon Johnson. And they just sat up there in that press conference phony, like they besties. Who does that? Who does that? Who does that, ladies and gentlemen? Who does it?
We're trying to protect children. Whenever you do that, you should call me ahead of time. We can have a conversation about what should we change? What is it that you'd like to see? Maybe we'll end up disagreeing, in which case, he has every right to go talk to people, but don't come into my house and talk to the people that I work with. I don't do that. And, and can try to convince them to work against something that's a priority for me. I didn't do that when the mayor was trying to pass a budget for the city of Chicago, which I didn't think was the right budget.
Everybody fall asleep? Y'all still awake? You know what I'm saying? You guys are witnessing Brandon Johnson getting flipped on, right? And you're witnessing the ridiculousness that people voted for based on reflex, based on mind control, based on MK Ultra, based on controllable predictability. My question is, how do people feel about it? How do people feel about it? Here's a better question. What are people going to do to change this going forward so that the same excuses are not used, at the very least, starting today, for another decade? That's my question. If there's no answers, right, it's arguable to say that there's no solution, right? No solution that people are willing to put into place, because there are solutions, right? It's just, is there a willingness to see them through? I'm not convinced. I'd like to be convinced. I'm not, however, at this point.
I didn't like many of the provisions, but I didn't go lobby the members of the city council against the mayor. And I certainly didn't make public my opposition. I expressed, nevertheless, to people in his administration what my opinions were.
Did the mayor and perhaps Speaker Welch and others, did they put their donors above the legislation?
Look, I think that all I can say is that there are a lot.
Shout out to Mama Zeke. What's good with it, Mama Zeke?
A lot of people who accept contributions from special interests and are swayed by them. I can't tell you whether that's something that I don't think that that's what the speaker was doing. I can tell you that when organizations spread money around in Springfield, it's because they want to get their way. And so there are people who, of course, are on their side. Intoxicating.
Oh, he said that when people spread money around Springfield, it's because they want to get their way. So to me, one thing that people could learn from this is that, like I've always said, you got to pay to play. So my question is, why do people not think that there's a vote per dollar ratio when it comes to getting the politics and policies enacted that you want? When he's talked about getting their way, he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything about voting. Right? So the thing is, what I want people to pay attention to is, yes, people just ignore this stuff. They ignore it. When this kind of information is being presented to people, as you guys can see, it's not that nobody told anybody about this stuff. It's not that people are tricked. People don't want to hear it. That's what it is. Not enough gaslighting. Not enough woo-woo-wooing. Too much attack. Too much aggression. Too much testosterone. That's the reality of what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Whenever you do that, you should call me ahead of time. We can have a conversation about what should we change? What is it that you'd like to see? Maybe we'll end up disagreeing, in which case, he has every right to go talk to people, but don't come into my house and talk to the people that I work with. I don't do that. And can try to convince them to work against something that's a priority for me.
Now, let me ask you guys this question. How come Brandon Johnson doesn't talk about J.B. Pritzker like that? J.B. Pritzker sounding pretty brolic, like they say in New York, right? He's sounding pretty brolic. You ever heard, Brandon Johnson never sounds brolic when he's talking about J.B. Pritzker. Why? Why? Why is that? I wonder if people realize that just because you don't want to hear something or just because you ignore something, you think that's going to whisk it out of existence? I got more news for you. It's not. Why don't Brandon Johnson talk about J.B. Pritzker like this? Who raised Brandon Johnson? Shout out to the people that got kids in the chat. Do you all raise your kids to be talked to or talked about like that without addressing it? Me personally, I wasn't raised like that.
For me, I didn't do that when the mayor was trying to pass a budget for the city of Chicago, which I didn't think was the right budget. I didn't like many of the provisions, but I didn't go lobby the members of the city council against the mayor. And I certainly didn't make public my opposition. I expressed, nevertheless, to people in his administration what my opinions were.
Did the mayor and perhaps Speaker Welch and others, did they put their donors above the legislation?
Look, I think that all I can say is that there are a lot of people who accept contributions from special interests and are swayed by them. I can't tell you whether that's something that I don't think that that's what the speaker was doing. I can tell you that when organizations spread money around in Springfield, it's because they want to get their way. And so there are people who, of course, are on their side. Intoxicating hemp is dangerous for children and adults. It needs to be regulated. And that organization, the Hemp Association, is working against the safety of the people of Illinois. I will stand against them every time if that's what they're for.
So as the mayor has said, he needs more state money to help his financial crisis with the schools. If I were the mayor instead of, what would you say to him now about those financial needs?
Let me ask you guys this question. Is the migrant crisis putting a strain on those financial needs? We could even go as far as to say the migrant crisis is causing a lot of those financial needs. So it should be pretty easy to figure out how to deal with the budget. I've been unsuccessful in this. Maybe I'll get an answer out of people with this one. What would you all do to try to decrease the budget in Chicago if you were Brandon Johnson and you wanted more money to allocate towards other things? What would you do?
Well, don't try to get it with hemp, with intoxicating hemp. That's the one thing I'd say. If you need resources, you should, of course, talk to people in Springfield. He doesn't do that enough. His relationships are not very close with people. And even when he came down last spring to talk to us, did not ask for anything while he was there. Look, we want what he wants, which is to make sure that our schools are well funded across the state of Illinois. We share that in common. We don't always have all the resources that are necessary to get that done. But every year that I've been in office, I've increased funding for education. More than $2 billion more is going into our public education system because of the work that I've done. And so do we need more? Of course we do. We have, in fact, a law on the books that has us increasing state funding every single year. We're doing it. So for them to claim, for people who want us to increase funding, to claim that we owe $1 billion is kind of disingenuous. They know that we're all trying very hard.
Yeah, facts. Now, shout out to James, right? James says, get on a megaphone and fight for the citizens. I would agree, right? But I think the citizens need to get a megaphone too. And, this chat is very small, right? But if this chat is representative of people getting on megaphones, I don't know how likely that's going to be, right? And then if you pay attention to Brandon Johnson and his interaction with J.B. Pritzker, he won't even stand up to J.B. Pritzker. If he won't stand up to J.B. Pritzker, do you think he's going to stand up to anybody who might be bigger or more bad? I don't think so. This is one of the reasons why you see Brandon Johnson takes out all of that scared dog aggression on reporters who he has power over and can shut down their questioning. I've never heard a reporter go in on Brandon Johnson or even talk to Brandon Johnson the way J.B. Pritzker is talking about him in this interview. You just saw J.B. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson stand up there like they were high school best friends. So if you ask me, you got to pay attention to behavior patterns. Now, shout out to James. James says the only ones really fighting is the black citizens. Now, let me ask you this. If we ask who the only ones were who voted for Brandon Johnson or J.B. Pritzker, who would we say those people were? Let me know in the chat.
Hard to get the resources that we need to put them into schools.
So if you do run for a third term, what's the upside?
You want me to evaluate the ups and downs of, why would I run or not run? Look, you've heard me say this. And
this is why I keep asking the question, why did people vote for these people? There's no good indicators for Brandon Johnson making a case for him being the mayor. Definitely no indicators for J.B. Pritzker being a governor. How many people know what the Pritzker family is involved in with the University of California, Berkeley for the quote unquote legitimate initiatives? I did a video a while ago. That was back when people used to watch my channel that talked about the Pritzker family business, right? The Pritzker family is still in that business. They got a couple hotel chains, if I'm not mistaken, and they do other things with quote unquote funding particular academic research, right? Let me ask you guys this question. What is this particular academic research that the Pritzker family funds? Does anybody know?
I believe it. I really do love the job. I love being able to wake up in the morning and know that I can protect people in the state of Illinois, that we can advance their cause, that we can make their lives easier and better. And we've done that for the last 6 years. The upside is we get to continue those policies. We get to advance that cause. There's so much more to do. There's no doubt about it. We have a lot more to do. I also really believe in fiscal responsibility. And every year I've made sure we've had balanced budgets. We've gotten credit upgrades. We have more to do. Our credit rating has been increasing, and I want it to increase even more. Why? Because it saves money in the long run for the taxpayers, and it's the right thing to do. So I believe that, if I were to continue in the job, that's something that would continue to be a priority.
Will this difficult budget that you're likely to face, will that perhaps be one of the factors? I mean, could that impact your legacy, that you're going to have perhaps more difficult time getting the budget through this time?
Look, one of the reasons that this is a great job, and the reason that I like the job, is it's challenging. You want to save budgets this year is the challenging thing. Sure. But every year I've been in office, we've had to fight a fight to get things done for people, right? Last year, we were fighting to expand healthcare, to make sure that we were getting rid of prior authorizations for mental health. That was a big deal. People hadn't been able to do that. I combined all of the downstate fire and police pensions after 75 years of people trying to do that. We got that done. It's good for the firefighters and the police officers. It's good for the state of Illinois. It was hard to do, but we got it done. It's one of the reasons I love it. If the job wasn't so challenging, I probably wouldn't like it so much.
So those who are looking and possibly thinking about running for president, whether it's you or someone else, do the Democrats have to move more to the center?
You know, people have been saying that since the election, but that's not what happened in this election. There were a lot of things that are quite unusual. And I'll just point to, we had an incumbent president who decided to run for re-election and then decided not to run for re-election.
Is that what happened? That's interesting, right? We had an incumbent president who ran and then decided not to run. Is that what happened? I'm pretty sure there was a little bit more to it than that. I'm sure that it was a little bit more to it than that. What actually happened? Shout out to my man, Patrick. I appreciate you, bro. Make sure you guys throw some flames, some radiation emojis, some ducks, some targets in the chat for Patrick, for funding the organization. I appreciate you, bro. Patrick says, if Pritzker runs for president 2028, they'll vote for him. I hope not, right? I hope not. But my hope doesn't matter. What do the patterns show? Right? My question would be, what do the patterns show? I'm gonna let y'all say it. What do the patterns show? Shout out to you, bro. Make sure y'all show Patrick some love. Throw some flames, some radiation emoji, and some ducks in the chat.
How do you think that we fund this organization, huh? We're not exactly the March of Dimes.
Definitely appreciate you, bro. Yeah, Scotty says a coup happened. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. If you guys would agree with Scotty, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down. Yeah, I mean, pretty sure powerful Democrats and some people that had money put some pressure on Joe Biden to make that decision, because that wasn't the initial decision. And at first, he resisted that decision, right? That's kind of not what happened. So people vote for liars. You know what I'm saying? People vote for liars, and then they're mad that they get lied to. I don't understand it.
After you couldn't have any primaries anymore. And so all of a sudden you had the vice president, who really wasn't that well known by people, as the candidate. And she had 108 days to run a campaign. That's nothing. I can tell you, because I ran for governor, it took about a year and a half from the start of my running to winning the November election to run that campaign. People didn't know me to start out, but they did at the end. And it's a primary process, particularly, that really helped me.
Now, shout out to Patrick, right? Patrick says, all these blacks in Chicago complaining will take their ass right in that booth and vote for his obese ass. Now, here's my question. 2 questions, right? First question, if you guys agree with that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. My question is, for the people that agree, if you agree with that, my question is, why would those people do that? I don't understand how, after what people have seen over the last 4 to 8 years, especially people that live in Chicago, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Let me know what you guys think.
Get to know people and have them get to know me. It's why I won. We have to have a good, solid primary process. And we didn't have that in 2024 for president. And that's really why we were challenged in the November elections.
One last one. Yeah. I'm getting the feeling, yes.
Shout out to Mama Zeke. I wouldn't disagree with that. I wouldn't disagree with that at all. Mama Zeke says lazy voting. Yeah. So if people, again, here's the question, right? We're observing this, right? Mama Zeke says lazy voting. I agree with Mama Zeke. Now, if people vote in a lazy way, what should the expected outcome be? What should the expected outcome be? Should the expected outcome be prosperity and affluency? Or should the expected outcome be chaos and uncertainty? Which one should the expected outcome be?
All right, so you've just turned 60. Happy birthday. Welcome to the 60s. And new decade, new priorities. You're not part of the AARP just yet, but, what about that? Do you have a new list of priorities, wish list?
Because I'm old now? Is that what you're saying?
Not as old as I am, so
Well,
you're in good shape.
You look better than I do. How about that? I had a lovely birthday. Thank you for wishing me a happy birthday. I wouldn't say they're new priorities. I will say that as you know, as you get older, as you have more experience in life, and you look back and you think about what is the legacy that you want to leave behind, whether you're a governor or just in a career or raising a family.
Shout out to Patrick. Patrick said, Rob, when I saw that news piece in Chicago and the blacks were complaining about the migrants, and it was like 7 people on the panel, and when asked who they were voting for, all said Kamala except one. Let me ask you guys a question. Is that close to a 1-to-1 ratio? Is that a monolith? That's close to that's 7 people, right? So that means that 6 out of 7 said that they were voting for Kamala, and 1 said that they weren't. So let's do the math. What is 6 divided by 7? That's 85%. That's 85%. Pretty similar to the exit poll. Pretty similar to the exit poll. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. But I will tell people this. Saying nothing is probably not going to do much. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Shout out to James Sumner. Monolith numbers. Throw the monolith emoji in the chat. But everybody says, oh, we're not a monolith. The math doesn't agree with that. There was so many people that gave me such pushback when all I did was talk about the exit polls. People weren't arguing against me. People are arguing against reality because they don't like how reality looks, and they feel that they don't have any hope or way of changing it. So the only way that they can change it is attempt to mentally disassociate it. The only thing that that's going to do is get people diagnosed for a mental disorder. It's not going to change anything with reality. You know what I'm saying? When and if people figure that out, maybe things will move in a different direction.
22 states are now suing the government over President Trump's decision to end birthright citizenship.
All right, so a lot of these states have gotten together, something like a class action lawsuit, to sue Trump over birthright citizenship. None of them said this is controversial. None of them said, well, this happened back in the 1800s. How does it affect anybody that's alive today? Right? Because that's actually an argument that could be used. No immigrant alive today is a slave. So how is the 14th Amendment being applied to them? See, we could take that argument and use that. You're not a slave. You're not a descendant of slaves. How does this affect you and your family today? Why is that not being done? Look, shout out to Patrick. Patrick said, Rob, that was back when you was first talking about the monolith numbers. And I was like, nah, Rob. And then that piece came out with 6 blacks said they voting for Kamala. I was like, damn. Listen, man, I'm going to tell y'all something. What did they say about medicine back in the day? It tastes nasty, but it'll get you right. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Hey, you know what I'm saying? Hey, as well as most of the content on all of my channels has aged, you would think that the growth rate would be better. But it's not. And it's not, because we operate in an anti-reality space. People come to social media and people come to YouTube to get away from reality and to get gaslit, not to actually validate reality and take control of it. Very few people do. And you can, if you look at the right content, right? But most people don't. Even if you show factual information with all your sources, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. People are conditioned to only believe what they want to believe and call what they want to believe the truth, not what is actually validating and consistent with reality. I've proven this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And as much as people claim that they want truth, the more that I prove this, the less growth my channel sees. What does that tell you about the people watching YouTube? What does that tell you about them? I don't know what to say. I think I've already said it all. Shout out to James Sumler. James Sumler said, Rob, I believe yours and others' content is turning the old heads' opinion. Now, you know, this, I hate to say this, right? I hate to sound a certain kind of way. Me personally, right? I'm not trying to change any old heads' opinions. You know what I'm saying? I am under the belief that most people, not all, but most people who are of a certain age are not only not willing, but are not physiologically capable of changing their opinions or changing their ways. There's in psychology what's called crystallized intelligence, and there's what's called fluid intelligence. Younger people have fluid intelligence. Older people have crystallized intelligence. Only a small segment of special older people are capable of actually making sudden and drastic changes, a very small percentage. My content is geared towards younger people. My content is the same way that I invest in cryptocurrency. Early entry. I want to enter your brain early. I don't want to enter your brain at $100,000. I want to enter your brain under a penny. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Brooklyn Queen. I think Brooklyn Queen just not what, let me see. Yeah. Yeah, shout out to Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn Queen just topped us off on the goal. Shout out to Brooklyn Queen. Brooklyn Queen just, in addition to everyone else who contributed, shout out to everybody who contributed. Y'all get y'all shout outs at the end of the show. Y'all know how we do, right? She just topped it off for the call-in show. So shout out to people that, you know, will be interested in a call-in show. It's definitely going down. I'm not sure when, but I will definitely announce it, and it'll be a good show, and we will have fun. Make sure you guys show Brooklyn Queen some love, funding the organization. Brooklyn Queen must have took a little bit out of that Toshi account. See, you could shout out to John, shout out to Brooklyn Queen. You can do stuff like that when you got Toshi, right? Shout out to Brooklyn Queen for funding the organization, and she just bought y'all lunch.
How do you think that we fund this organization, huh? We're not exactly the march of dimes.
Don't push me, ain't Donald Trump trying to grab him by the... Said it was some Haitians somewhere out in Springfield. Women doing cartwheels.
Have you seen Garfield?
Have you seen Snowball? This about to snowball. I'm about to go off. I can't let this go on. Miss me like an airball. Tell me where my cat is, cough it up like a hairball. I gotta tell them if they even put the fingernail on Santa's little helper to turn them to hamburger helper. Somebody better help them, cause I'm going to jail for showing them fellas helter skelter. Usually I'm content, but if you touch my dog, then I'm turning into John Wick. I'm lit. Bird better drop it. If you touch my pet, then I'm pulling up like CrossFit. These where they said Hello Kitty, but it ain't there. It's right here in your city. When I turn my back, now the cat goes missing, and where my peoples is at. Does anybody know where he took when that? Cause I heard they putting claws on felines, I'm mad. And my cat disappeared just like Felix the cat. And the cat got paid back. Thought she was a goner, but the cat came back. If you ain't a pussy cat, say drop that cat. Drop that cat. Drop that cat. Got paid back. Thought she was a goner, but the cat came back. If you ain't a pussy cat, say drop that cat. Drop that cat. Drop that cat.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. Eat the cat.
Drop that cat.
Shout out to Brooklyn Queen. Definitely appreciate you, Brooklyn Queen. And facts, just a little bit of Toshi. You know what I'm saying? Just a little bit of Toshi get you a long way. You know what I'm saying? Just a little bit of Toshi. You know what I'm saying? If you had to put $10 on some Toshi, when I put $10 on some Toshi, you have $100 today. And then you could be just like Brooklyn Queen and help us hit that goal. You could be just like John Guillory and help us hit that goal. A little bit of Toshi. You know what I'm saying?
Birthright citizenship is the idea that children born in America whose parents are undocumented immigrants automatically gain citizenship.
Birthright citizenship defenders tend to point to the 14th Amendment of the Constitution.
The specific clause often cited within that amendment reads, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Senior legal...
So, again, how did this even address what was going on when the 14th Amendment was written? So let's tackle that question. How does this right here, 14th Amendment, Section 1, how did that address the issue that the 14th Amendment was written in response to, or allegedly written in response to? Let me know what you guys think. Shout out to everybody watching. I appreciate you guys. If you all haven't smashed the like button yet, please do me a favor. Take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys haven't hit the bell, please take a moment, hit that bell, and also please share the stream to your social media.
United States and of the state wherein they reside. Senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation, Amy Swearer, however, disagrees with the notion entirely.
Swearer, in the abstract of her 75-page paper on the topic, writes, while it is indeed clear that the Constitution recognizes that citizenship is the birthright of certain U.S.-born individuals, both textual...
What certain U.S.-born individuals was the 14th Amendment talking about? Facts. Shout out to James Sumler. James Sumler says descendants of slavery in America. Facts. When it comes to the 14th Amendment, who were the immigrants that were being discussed? The immigrants were the people who were denying the people that the 14th Amendment was talking about. They were denying them their citizenship. So if you ask me, the 14th Amendment is not even applied correctly or appropriately. Right? If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down. Is it a fact that immigrants who were the majority of the American population at that time created a situation where this law had to be applied to people who were not immigrants? If this is true, give me a thumbs up. If this is not true, give me a thumbs down. So the question is, how does the 14th Amendment get applied to immigrants in the way that the 14th Amendment serviced the non-immigrants in that situation? How does that work? Here's another question. Why has nobody ever questioned that? Yeah, now shout out to James. James says the founding fathers. they were all immigrants, correct? If the founding fathers were all immigrants, give me a thumbs up. If the founding fathers were not all immigrants, give me a thumbs down. Now, were the slaves immigrants? So when it comes to the 14th Amendment, how do we apply how the 14th Amendment addresses non-immigrants to immigrants when there were other immigrants involved in the creation of the 14th Amendment? How does that work exactly?
Dualist and originalist analyses of the Citizenship Clause substantially undermine assertions that birthright citizenship must be applied universally to all persons born on U.S. soil, regardless of the immigration status of their parents. Joining us now.
So if that's the case, right? If that's the case, the 14th Amendment allegedly wouldn't even apply to any slaves or descendants of slaves because none of us were immigrants if they take this route right here. Yeah, I gotta agree with Scotty. If you guys agree with Scotty, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. Scotty says technically no, they were hostages. I wouldn't disagree with that. Right? So again, this is why I say one of the reasons why this has been out of control is because people allowed this rolling narrative of what's going on with the 14th Amendment to fly for so long until now it's just completely out of control. It's completely out of control. So now if I were to have a platform to where I could introduce to people my interpretation of this, which if you ask me is highly logical, right? People will say that it's hate speech. But it's not hate speech. This is chronological review of law, right? What do you? If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down.
Now to dive deeper into her point of view is Amy Swearer. Amy, welcome to Rising.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
So why don't you elaborate on your argument? For years we've heard that it's pretty unambiguous that that even if you come to the country illegally, if you give birth here, your children are American citizens.
Let me ask you guys this question: does the 14th Amendment even address people coming to the United States in the way that the people who the 14th Amendment was written to address came to the United States? It doesn't even have anything in there that addresses that. Yeah, shout out to Scotty, Yuri Bezimov. Yeah, the ideological subversion, right? How many people have ever listened to that former KGB member, Yuri Bezimov's little interviews that he did about ideological subversion and propaganda? Shout out to my man, Jay Boogie, from back in the day. He told me about this book called Propaganda. It's by somebody named Edward Bernays, if I'm not mistaken. You guys should check that out, too.
From birth, but you say it's more complicated than that. Can you explain why?
Absolutely. So I'm fully aware that many Americans today, and in fact, probably most legal scholars, simply assume that we have what I'd refer to as universal birthright citizenship, that we follow sort of the old English common law that universally grants citizenship to anyone born in this country under any circumstances, except for maybe the children of like foreign ministers, foreign ambassadors, et cetera. But the reality is, when you look at the original public meaning of the 14th Amendment, when you look at what these words meant to the people who drafted and ratified that amendment to the Constitution, they were very clear. While they were trying, of course, to override the Dred Scott decision and make citizens of the newly freed slaves.
How does any of that apply to undocumented migrants? These are very different situations. If you guys would agree these are very different situations, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down. Now, again, I got to ask this question. Why have people just allowed this to, not be nailed down into a specific frame of reference or a specific definition, specific legal terminology? When you don't tie up loose ends, things come apart, right? So what we're witnessing is things coming apart. So here's my question. How many people think that this law should have been made much more specific? If you guys think that this should have been made much more specific, give me a thumbs up. If you don't think that it should have been made much more specific, then give me a thumbs down.
That the Supreme Court in Dred Scott said they're not citizens, they can never be citizens, even though they owe their allegiance nowhere else. Congress was absolutely trying to make citizens of them and to eliminate permanent racial barriers to citizenship. But
What do you guys think? What do you guys think, ladies and gentlemen? Let me know what you guys think.
citizenship to anyone born in this country under any circumstances, except for maybe the children of like foreign ministers, foreign ambassadors, etc. But the reality is, when you look at the original public meaning of the 14th Amendment, when you look at what these words meant to the people who drafted and ratified that amendment to the Constitution, they were very clear. While they were trying, of course, to override the Dred Scott decision and make citizens of the newly freed slaves.
Now, the newly freed slaves were held slaves by immigrant slaveholders. So again, how can the 14th Amendment even apply to any immigrant when the 14th Amendment gave a specific group of people citizenship rights, and it also put restrictions on what a specific group of people could do, which is immigrant American citizens, to people who didn't get their citizenship status in the same way? Somebody answer that for me in the comment section.
That the Supreme Court in Dred Scott said they're not citizens, they can never be citizens, even though they owe their allegiance nowhere else. Congress was absolutely trying to make citizens of them and to eliminate permanent racial barriers to citizenship. But they were also explicitly trying to exclude certain classes of people, not based on race, but based on their lack of total, complete political allegiance to the United States that didn't put them in anywhere near similar footing to those newly freed slaves who owe their allegiance nowhere else.
That's neither here nor there, right? I wouldn't say that quote unquote newly freed slaves owe their allegiance to the country that allowed them to be slaves, but that's neither here nor there, right? Still very different situations. How does any of that apply to undocumented migrants coming in illegally to the Mexican border? Now, it would be arguable, right, that the people that the 14th Amendment was written for came to the United States via illegal actions by criminal migrant United States citizens. So yeah, there was some illegal entry, but that illegal entry was driven and done by criminal migrant slaveholders. If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down. So now, again, right, the Democrats are applying these things to protection of quote unquote criminal migrants. When it comes to the 14th Amendment, the people who the 14th Amendment was written for were not the criminal migrants in the equation. If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down.
But Amy, I want to get on to another case on the legal point of this, and I know you're aware of it because you allude to it in one of the pieces that I read, which you wrote. An 1898 Supreme Court case, which I'm sure our audience will be delighted to plunge into, but it's the US versus Wong Kim Ark. And To explain that briefly, this is about a 21-year-old person who had been born in San Francisco to Chinese immigrant parents, and his parents at the time, by virtue of being...
Let me ask you guys this question. How many quote-unquote descendants of slaves were born to quote-unquote immigrant parents? These situations are not the same in any way, and I don't understand how one legal application makes sense for the other. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a Juris Doctorate. I don't have a list at all of any type of case law or practice or court time or anything. I'm just looking at this from a basis of common sense and logic, right? So I don't want to give this, like I'm some type of legal expert, right? I think that I'm just asking questions that should be addressed. And I think that these are very common sense questions. I don't think that anything that I'm saying is radical. I don't think that anything that I'm saying is, extreme, right? I think that this is very basic. My question is, why has this never been brought up? Now, shout out to James, right? James says that's why Trump has legit beef. I think Trump may have a beef, right? And he might have a beef, and there's nothing wrong with him having a beef. He has an issue with, immigration and the way that things are going for his reasons, right? But I don't think what I'm talking about is Trump's beef to have. You know what I'm saying? If you guys would agree, what I'm talking about, I don't think that that's Trump's beef to have. If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. Now, I'm not saying that Trump doesn't have his reasons, right? And I'm not saying that his reasons are not valid. And I'm not saying that every reason that he has is valid. But what I'm talking about in particular, this right here, I don't think that this right here, I don't think that this is Trump's beef to have. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And again, I wouldn't disagree with Scotty. If you repeat a lie enough times, it'll become accepted as the truth. Yeah. Gaslighting 101, right? Post-truth politics. I talk about post-truth politics all the time. Believe it or not, post-truth politics is yet to become a popularized term, despite the fact that it was voted the word of the year by Oxford in 2016. If you ask me, it's very relevant. So again, I keep asking this question. Why was this not defined, nailed down, and hammered down? All these loopholes, if you ask me, should have been addressed and tied up long time ago. They should have been addressed, tied up long time ago. But here we are, 2025. You guys remember back in the day when the movies came out and it was the future and, they would have all the flying cars and it was 2025. The world is moving slower than it did in the movies, right? So there's that, right? And we're in the future. And the past is haunting people. You know what I'm saying? We're in the future and the past is haunting people. Now, let me ask this question. Why is the past haunting the people of the present and the future? Why is that happening?
Chinese, there were a lot of restrictionist laws and they could not become citizens. He left the country and was not allowed back in because they said he wasn't a citizen. And he took that case to the Supreme Court. Now, before I go on to describe the judgment, is that basically an accurate summation of the underlying case?
Yeah, that is exactly what happened to Wong Kim Ark, yes.
So then, when it comes to the Supreme Court, they rule in his favor by a 6-2 majority. And Justice Horace Gray, for the majority, writes that the case, and I quote, affirms the ancient and fundamental rule of citizenship by birth within the territory. And he then goes on to say that
So I want you guys to understand, right, when it comes to the 14th Amendment, despite the fact that the 14th Amendment might have been inspired by an event, the 14th Amendment was not created to address the event. The 14th Amendment was created to address the qualifiers of being a citizen in the United States. The 14th Amendment was inspired by the situation of the Emancipation Proclamation. what should have been happening this entire time is that people should have advocated, tested the law, and made it so that that law was specific to the people involved in the events that inspired the 14th Amendment. This is something that should have happened. If that had have happened, it would be difficult for them to use this for what they're using it for right now. But when you say stuff, your live numbers drop. And then when stuff like this happens, people say, we had no idea. Well, ideas are the first step to a solution, right? So me personally, if I wanted to do a step one change to deal with that type of thing, I would make sure that I'm in an environment where ideas are plentiful. Because the more ideas there are, the higher the likelihood a solution or multiple solutions will be developed. If you're in a low idea environment, it's a lower likelihood that solutions will be developed and implemented. Product of environment.
14th Amendment is declaratory in form and enabling and extending in effect. So, I mean, that seems pretty clear to me. You obviously don't think that that applies in this case, but the language seems fairly clear. So what is your argument to counter that?
So if that were the only language in that opinion, I'd probably agree with you. But the reality is that opinion doesn't actually follow in its own practice what the common law analysis would have been.
What's good
So
with
at common law, that analysis from that court would have been very simple. It would have been Juan Kim Ark was born here. He is not the child of an ambassador or any sort of legally accredited foreign national. Therefore, he is a...
So I want you to see how the legal arguments are framed. The legal arguments are not framed basing how the law is applied on the event that inspired the law. I'm not making this up. You know what I'm saying? I'm not making this up. You guys are literally watching this and watching these people have this debate. So now here's my question. How do people deal with that? And shout out to everybody watching. I appreciate you guys. If you all haven't smashed a like yet, please take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys haven't hit the bell, please take a moment, hit that bell, and also please share the stream to your social media. So, you know, again, my question is, how do people deal with this? This is one of the reasons why, if you ask me, it is so important to pay attention to these lawsuits and pay attention to the framework, right? Because if you ask me, right, if people adopted the way that I am interpreting this, it would negate all of those lawsuits that all of these states are trying to file. If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down.
Citizen. Instead, the court very narrowly holds and repeatedly emphasizes the lawful permanent residency of Juan Kim Ark's parents. That is irrelevant to anything under the Old English common law.
So now, okay, so again, in the events that inspired the 14th Amendment, what is the lawful residential home of quote unquote slaves? So how do you even bridge those things over, right? Somebody help me out with an answer to that question. As the 14th Amendment applies to the event that inspired it, what is the lawful residential birthplace or home of a slave? Not of an immigrant, of a slave. Help me out.
here. He is not the child of an ambassador or any sort of legally accredited foreign national. Therefore, he is a citizen. Instead, the court very narrowly holds and repeatedly emphasizes the lawful permanent residency of Wong Kim Ark's parents. That is irrelevant to anything under.
So if you are a son or a daughter of a slave when the 14th Amendment was written, what is your lawful legal residency? Did you have one? What was your lawful legal residency? And did you come to that lawful legal residency legally? Let me know in the comment section. And shout out to everybody watching. Again, I appreciate you guys. If you all haven't hit the like button yet, please do me a favor. Take a moment, hit that like button. Also, if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, take a moment, hit that bell icon twice. And also, please share the stream to your social media. We got 23 people watching. We got 31 likes. Let's try to get the likes to 50.
The Old English common law. And so actually my thesis within the article that you mentioned is that what the court is doing is sort of recognizing an Americanized version of that common law. And I think to that extent, that limited holding that the US born children of permanently domiciled, lawfully present aliens, what we would today consider lawful permanent residents, that they are US citizens, I think that's perfectly consistent with, one, what the original public meaning of the 14th Amendment was, but also with this idea of this Americanized.
So that, again, that's what the meaning of the 14th Amendment was. Now, here's my question. How is that the meaning of the 14th Amendment when we didn't have a mass migration or mass illegal immigration situation creating the environment that caused the 14th Amendment? These are questions that I need people to answer, okay? Surely people have answers to this, right? So let's hear them.
With, one, what the original public meaning of the 14th Amendment was, but
and now also, right, if people don't have articulate answers for this, or if people don't have a discernible way to deliver this type of information, people cannot get upset that the information has not been delivered or presented. Things don't happen by osmosis. Maybe, you know, in your body on a chemical level, molecular level, right? Maybe, you know, in the universe, quantum, you know, small particles, you know, large objects moving at light speed. But aside from that, to all the people that like technicalities, these kind of things here don't happen by osmosis.
Also with this idea of this Americanized jus soli, this Americanized birthright citizenship, which is not nearly as broad as the Old English common law. And you see this even in a Yale Law Review article from that same year commenting on this case, where it recognizes that unlike the Old English common law, where even being a temporary sojourner was enough for the child of that person to be considered a citizen of that nation, the American common law doesn't allow for that. That permanent domicile, permanent residency is what makes that U.S.-born child a citizen.
The American situation was also different than the common law situation in England, because in England, they didn't have chattel slavery like they had in the United States, which is what the 14th Amendment allegedly was inspired by, right? So the situations were different, which is why the law is different. If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down. So now here's my question. Why is the Heritage Fund, or I'm sorry, why is the Heritage Foundation articulating this? Like I said, you know, Trump may have his issues with immigration and all that. You know, I get it, right? But if you ask me, this particular part of this right here It's not really his issue to have. So my question is, when are the people that should have this issue with this particular element right here going to actually do something about it? Because the reason why it's where it is right now is because nothing has been done about it. And now it's just all over the place. It's public. As you can see, it's been made public property. How many people would agree the 14th Amendment is now open source? Which is hilarious, right? Because the Democrats, for the most part, are against open source stuff. But they, for the most part, have open sourced the 14th Amendment and other things. Right? So if something has become open sourced, what does that mean? Open source can be good in some situations, right? OBS, the streaming software, is open source. It's good. People contribute to it and make it better. Oh my God, get ready. About 10 people are about to leave the chat. So hit the like button now so we can bring 10 people in here. Bitcoin is open source. People can make it better. Open source isn't the ideal situation for everything. Open source is a good situation when there's a dedicated community of people who have a vested interest in improving the function of the item that's open source. I think that this item is problematic open source. And we're looking at the problems that is caused being open sourced, which is why it should be nailed down to the specific group of people and their descendants that inspired the making of this law. We wouldn't have a migrant crisis. They would have to do some type of workarounds, make some other laws, or, do something wild with the interpretation. Right? If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down.
And so even after this case, you see scholars understanding that whatever the court is doing here, it is not embracing the full extent of English common law. To the extent it is embracing common law, it is an Americanized version of that. And I think that's perfectly consistent with both the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and also the original public meaning of the 14th Amendment.
So this executive order is going to get litigated. Immigration rights groups are suing to stop it. What would end up being the legal status of, so would this would render as not citizens anymore people? Would this be backward as well as going forward?
So my understanding of the executive order is that it is only prospective. And I think that's a good thing, legally speaking. I think if you start looking at stripping citizenship from people who have already relied on that, who the United States has already said in good faith, we're considering you citizens, you start running into reliance issues. But this only looks prospectively for children born after a certain date. I believe that date is the end of February of this year. So it is prospective.
So now, check this out, right? When it comes to this particular situation, nobody asked the question, well, how do we know who will be immigrants? How do we know who will get deported? Don't you guys think it's interesting? Even though these people are undocumented, they know every single one who will get deported. They know every single one, even though they're undocumented. There's no documents substantiating any of these people's these are effectively ghost people, right? But they're all accounted for. Just food for thought.
The legal status would be after that the U.S. would not consider those children to be U.S. citizens. That said, almost never would that leave a child stateless. I know that this is an argument that has been put forward by critics of this executive order, but the reality is that almost always you are going to have that child either automatically qualify for or have automatically bestowed on them the citizenship of the nation of origin of their parents. In fact, I've not seen yet presented a single instance in which that wouldn't be the case, where you could, by some technicality of law and the fact of birth on U.S. soil, have an individual who just acquires citizenship nowhere if we don't consider them U.S. citizens. So I'm not sure that criticism is actually something that could even plausibly come to fruition.
So I thought that was pretty interesting, right? I thought that was pretty interesting. Now, my question is, what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that? I want to see if you guys have a similar opinion to what the mayor of Newark has. All right. How many people have heard about what the mayor of Newark has had to say about all of this stuff? If you guys have heard what the mayor of Newark has had to say about all of this stuff, give me a thumbs up. If you guys have not heard what the mayor of Newark has had to say about all of this stuff, then give me a thumbs down. We're going to take a listen. All right. And I want you guys to let me know what you think about it.
With the moments that one man was taken into custody during an ICE raid in Newark yesterday, and the new video showing it happen.
3 people were taken into custody in the raid inside a seafood market, and when officials say they were unable to provide documentation proving that they had legal status.
Now, why wasn't the employer arrested and the seafood market shut down? How many people think that the employer, the owner of that seafood market, should have been arrested and the market should have been shut down? If you ask me, that should have happened. Because one thing that people don't like to talk about is that there are American people who are exploiting this illegal migrant situation, providing incentives for this to keep happening. You know what I'm saying? If you ask me, it's the same way that if you get caught buying stolen property, you get in trouble just like the thief did. If you get caught utilizing illegal workforce or illegal employees, you're not liable for any type of consequence or any type of fine or any type of reprimand or anything. To me, people can keep doing it like that, but if they keep doing it like that, you're giving incentivization for people to continue to keep doing it.
Begin with the moments that one man was taken into custody during an ICE raid in Newark yesterday, and the new video showing it happen.
3 people were taken into custody in the raid inside a seafood market, and when officials say they were unable to provide documentation proving that they had legal status.
Today, Newark Mayor Ross Baraka is firing back at the Trump administration. Eyewitness News reporter Phil Tate is live in Newark with the latest. Phil.
Yeah, President Trump's long-promised raids are being seen across the country, and that's as we're being told over 500 undocumented immigrants have already been arrested. We saw one of those raids happen here outside this local business here in Newark, and for the first time, you're going to be seeing some new video which shows those moments. Let's get straight to that video right now. This video captures the moments ICE agents rounded up one of the 3 people we're told were detained at this Ocean Seafood Depot. Now, that person seen wearing a baseball cap walked around the corner of this Newark business surrounded by these agents before being placed inside of a vehicle and then taken away. Now, we had spoken with the owner of the business, who says he was caught off guard as federal agents asked for documentation for 3 workers.
He was caught off guard and he was caught. Is it legal to have people like this working for your business? So everybody got arrested and he didn't. You have to show I-9 proof of documentation when you hire people. You have to ask them for a driver's license. In some places, if it fits the real ID criteria, you have to ask for a birth certificate. And if you don't have a driver's license or a birth certificate, a passport can be substituted, right? And then if you don't have any of those documents, you got to check another box that shows whether you have a resident alien, naturalized citizen, or other type of document that makes you authorized to be in the United States and be employed. A work permit is another one. If you hire people that don't have those documents, you will get in trouble. If you hire somebody as a bartender who is 12 years old and you failed to ask them for their document, which would be a state ID, will you get in trouble? Your bar will get shut down, and if you are operating in a state where liquor licenses are issued, more than likely you'll lose your liquor license. What license are these people losing? This is one of the reasons why this stuff keeps happening.
And then took them into custody when they were unable to provide the paperwork needed. Now, Newark Mayor Baraka called the raid egregious and said this morning there was a mix of undocumented people and U.S. citizens who were detained, although no warrant was shown at the time. Now, he went on to say pictures and fingerprints of these individuals were also gathered. Now, an official describes those very tense moments. Let's take a listen.
ICE walked in like it was their empire's own conquered land. They were heavily armed. There was no prior announcement.
Now, it's funny that she used that phrase, right? Because if we want to actually be technical, well, right? It's funny that that's the choice of words that she used, because if we take that choice of words at face value, well, right?
Into custody when they were unable to provide the paperwork needed. Now, Newark Mayor Baraka called the raid egregious and said this morning there was a mix of undocumented people and U.S. citizens who were detained, although no warrant was shown at the time. Now, he went on to say pictures and fingerprints of these individuals were also gathered. Now, an official describes those very tense moments. Let's take a listen.
ICE walked in like it was their empire's own conquered land.
Well, gotta ask the question, is it? You know what I'm saying? Is it? Shout out to DC Precise. What's good with it, bro? Well, since you put it that way, young lady, what's the answer?
They were heavily armed. There was no prior announcement. They were blocking off entrances and exits. They were
I want you guys to pay attention. You see that? She says this. We asked the question. Look at the live number. Instead of answering the question, people can't handle it. They can't handle it. They can't handle it. If you can't handle this, I don't know what you may as well just. I'll tell you, it's a lot harder challenges out there than listening to and accepting reality for what it is. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Mama Zeke. Mama Zeke says, I've completed I-9 verification for my former employer because they were too cheap to staff our site with HR. The documents one has to produce have to be legit. Absolutely. And you got to get a BCI FBI background check in addition to those I-9 documents. And if you don't have, a birth certificate, if you don't have a state ID or a driver's license, if you don't have a passport, you're not even going to show up in a BCI FBI background check. And if you don't show up in a BCI FBI background check, you shouldn't be hired, because they have no way of tracing the likelihood of you committing a crime or not. If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down. This is basic stuff. Everybody's been through this when they work a job, filling this stuff out in orientation.
Scrambling up delivery ramps. They were banging down bathroom doors to make sure no one was hiding inside.
The problem with this is that none of these people were rapists or murderers or
Look.
Criminals. The problem with it is that ICE went in there without a warrant. And we can disagree on politics. You can disagree with me about the role immigrants play in the economy of our community. You can disagree with me about the fact that most immigrants are not criminals. In fact, they are victims of violence in cities. We can disagree about whether you.
Now he said. Now that's interesting, right? Because let's actually unpack that particular situation there. He says that immigrants can be victims of violence in cities, which this is true, right? Most people can be victims of violence in the cities or places that they reside in, right? But when it comes to immigrants in particular, right? When it comes to immigrants in particular, who is the highest likely group of people to commit crimes against immigrants and migrants? We've seen the reports over and over. In most cases, it's other migrants at a high rate at migrant shelters, right? If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, then give me a thumbs down.
Mass deportation or not. But what we must agree on is that the thing that separates this country from many other countries around the world is the Constitution of the United States.
I feel that we have to be a country with law, but go after bad people, not working people. These are people, these are family people. These are people that show up to work every day. Never respond.
Now, let me ask you guys this question. How many of these people that came into the country utilized the cartel and human smugglers to help them get into the United States? That's an illegal transaction, right? You're not allowed to do that. Right? If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down. They don't talk about that. But we've got massive amounts of videos, massive amounts of live streams on this channel where we specifically talk about the deals that have been made and the transactions that have been made as far as many people who are quote unquote undocumented crossing the southern or northern border using quote unquote cartel, using quote unquote smugglers, using quote unquote coyotes. These are all criminal transactions. Why didn't they work that hard on the application? I guarantee you the application is less risky than putting your trust in a cartel, leaving a 5-year-old with a cartel member. I guarantee you filling out an application is a lot less risky than that. You know what I'm saying?
Responsibility.
And ICE Newark this morning tells us in a statement, quote, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement may encounter U.S. citizens while conducting field work and may request identification to establish an individual's identity, as was the case during a targeted enforcement operation at a work site today in Newark, New Jersey. This is an active investigation and per ICE policy. Now, while there are still so many questions that officials are looking to get answers to, so many of the community as well, as there was many people meeting inside of this local business about 2 hours ago. They wouldn't exactly tell us what was being discussed, but we were told that there were community organizations present at that time. This all follows that executive order that was signed by President Trump just earlier this week. Again, this is a story that we will continue to follow. We're live in Newark this afternoon. I'm Phil Tate, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Thank you so much. ICE says it has already made 538 arrests and detained 373 undocumented immigrants in sanctuary cities across the country. Here in New York, an alleged MS-13 gang member from El Salvador and a Jamaican citizen facing child pornography charges were both detained. The targets so far have been undocumented immigrants with outstanding crimes.
I would have
Sorry about that. The local news, as always, right, seems to be portraying a very different story than the national news, right? The local news is saying the targets of these raids, the targets of these deportations are quote unquote criminal migrants, right? The mainstream media, the national news, is not saying that. Why is there a difference?
This afternoon on Bill Tate, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Phil, thank you so much. ICE says it has already made 538 arrests and detained 373 undocumented immigrants in sanctuary cities across the country. Here in New York, an alleged MS-13 gang member from El Salvador and a Jamaican citizen facing child pornography charges were both detained. The targets so far have been undocumented immigrants with outstanding crimes.
I would have liked to have seen a more succinct plan preemptively from the administration to prepare for this situation.
I mean, I would say that the plan, it must have been pretty elaborate. It seems that they are hitting their objectives. Right? According to the local news, they're not really going after non-criminal migrants. They're going after criminal migrants. Let me ask you guys this question. What is it that this lady wants? What is her expectation? Again, we got to ask the question, who's holding the crowbar? Who's holding the crowbar? In this particular situation right here, who's holding the crowbar?
A statement from the mayor's office reads in part, just last week, City Hall gathered several high-ranking members of our administration for a private meeting with the speaker and other council members where we discussed in detail the months of scenario planning that we had prepared in response to new procedures at the federal level.
All right, so there's that. Who's holding the crowbar, ladies and gentlemen? You saw her holding the crowbar. You guys saw that Newark mayor holding the crowbar. Who voted for these people? Who voted for these people, ladies and gentlemen?
Reporting 1,300 arrests in raids across the Northeast. One of those happened yesterday at a seafood business in New Jersey, and some local lawmakers say agents came in without any warrants. They hauled workers away. But Border Czar Tom Homan, who spoke with our Chris Cuomo last night, says he is focused on getting the criminals out.
There's nothing in the Immigration and Nationality Act that says you got to be convicted of a crime if you're here illegally to be removed. Our focus on arresting public safety threats and national security threats. That's exactly what we're doing now.
All right, so now sanctuary cities across the country, like right here in Chicago, are taking steps to protect undocumented migrants. Let's get out to NewsNation's Alex Cabriello, who is following this part of the story, joins us live here in Chicago.
Let me ask you guys this question. What steps are they doing to take, what steps are they doing to protect American citizens from inflation? What steps are they taking to protect Americans from cost of living hikes that we'll be talking about very soon all over the place? It's interesting how it works, right? The people that don't pay taxes, you have one political party that's going hard in the paint for them. But if you don't pay your taxes, you can find yourself in jail. These people can commit a crime and they won't find themselves in jail. Where's your protection? Do people even know that they're exposed in this way? I don't even think that the majority of people even understands or realizes that they're exposed in this way. But I'm asking, right? Now that it's something that you can consider, where's your protection?
Chicago. Alex, what else is Homan saying about raids in sanctuary cities?
Yeah, this was an exclusive opportunity between our very own Chris Cuomo and border czar Tom Homan. In it, he really was commending the hard work of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. He also shared some hard numbers with News Nation. Let's take a look at them together. In just those first few days of the Trump administration, Homan says that ICE agents have arrested more than 1,300 undocumented immigrants, which includes more than 1,000 criminals. The other 300 or so are what he calls collateral damage.
What would those criminals have done had they not been arrested? What would those criminals have done had they not been arrested, ladies and gentlemen? Somebody let me know.
Which means illegal aliens who may not be public safety threats, but were arrested nonetheless by being in proximity to their operations in those immigrant neighborhoods. These targeted ICE operations have been happening all across the country, including in many sanctuary cities. Homan says he hopes those cities begin to see the progress they're making and allow ICE agents into county jails to arrest those violent criminals and those public safety threats. He says that would reduce the collateral damage by ensuring they focus their arrests on men and women who have broken U.S. laws. Take a listen.
They're not letting us in the county jail because of sanctuary laws. If we could arrest the bad guy in the safety and security of a jail, which is safer for the officer, safer
now,
for...
you see, they won't let them in the county jails, right? But we just sat up there and watched J.B. Pritzker say that people convicted of crimes should be deported. How does J.B. Pritzker expect them to get deported if he won't open up the jails to let them get the people and process them? Yeah, and shout out to Black Spider. Probably would have committed more, probably even worse crimes. Right? Yeah, and I wouldn't disagree with Brody. Shout out to Brody. Brody says they also know officials are on the take and that elections mean nothing. Yeah, if you guys agree with Brody, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down.
Begin to see the progress they're making and allow ICE agents into county jails to arrest those violent criminals and those public safety threats. He says that would reduce the collateral damage by ensuring they focus.
So now I actually want to dive into this a little bit more, right? Because shout out to Brody, right? If this is true and people know this, then that means that most people know that it's their own task to deal with these issues internally. And that the government, quote unquote, elected officials, right, bought and paid for politics, cannot be relied on for this. So this is even more evidence that people know that they have to get stuff done themselves. So with self-custody of the situation and people knowing that and still allowing things to just get completely out of control, how do people change that going forward? How do people fix that going forward?
Focus their arrests on men and women who have broken U.S. laws. Take a listen.
They're not letting us in the county jail because of sanctuary laws. If we could arrest the bad guy in the safety and security of a jail, which is safer for the officer, safer for the alien, safer for the community, then there'd be a lot less of those type, like you just said, low-level offenders, be a lot less of them arrested. But when you force us in the community, we're going to find that guy sooner or later.
Here in Chicago, which of course is considered a sanctuary city, we have not seen those same types of mass deportations. That's not to say that they haven't happened in Illinois, but we just haven't seen them play out in that large scale. At the very same time, the mayor, Brandon Johnson, as well as the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, continue to say that they are going to reinforce that sanctuary city status.
J.B. Pritzker and, Brandon Johnson are declaring that they're going to continue with the sanctuary city status, even though that is something that is in clear opposition of the interest of their voters. Clear opposition of the interest of their voters. They're gonna do it anyway. They're gonna do it anyway. Who votes for people like that? Who votes for somebody that moves like that?
Whatever they can to protect undocumented immigrant families and their children. At the same time, over the past few days, we have heard Governor Pritzker say he's okay with the fact of illegal aliens who are committing those violent crimes being the first ones to be deported.
Yeah, there's so much anticipation kind of what could potentially happen. Alex, let's go back to that raid in New Jersey that we mentioned at the top. It's making headlines, but it's also drawing some criticism.
Yeah, this was a very interesting raid that happened overnight in Newark, New Jersey. We have some locator video that our affiliate Pix 11 actually captured from that moment. Employees at that seafood restaurant say that ICE agents actually showed up unannounced and without a warrant, demanding documentation from employees and taking 3 people.
The police show up unannounced all the time. I mean, you know what I'm saying? How many quote unquote no knock warrants have people talked about over the years? I mean, this happens all the time. Right? So for I'm not trying to be funny, but you know, dealing with a no knock warrant, if you ask me, that sounds like their first step. Welcome to America, right? If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down. I mean, you're here now. You know what I'm saying? You don't get to come to America, get all the good stuff, and not get the bad stuff. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is.
Into custody. ICE agents say they were performing a targeted enforcement operation. But the mayor of Newark says one of the men detained is an American citizen and also a war veteran. That outraged mayor writes, quote, one of the detainees is a U.S. military veteran who suffered the indignity of having the legitimacy of his military documentation questioned. Newark will not stand by idly while people are being unlawfully terrorized. We also heard from several New Jersey, United States senators. That includes.
Well, it's good to know that if you get caught up in an undocumented, you know, sweep or undocumented raid, if you have accusations against you, it now is, you know, just an outrage. Because people get detained and asked questions all the time unrelated to, you know, citizenship or being documented, and it's just not it's not a national outrage. You know what I'm saying?
Cory Booker, who really condemned this ICE operation, saying that if this is the way that mass deportations are going to be happening, we have to see a little bit more legitimacy with them. They do not want ICE to be out there sowing fear. This is the major concern for Democrats in the United States at this moment. Nicole.
All right, Alex Capriello live for us here in Chicago. Thank you. All right, thanks.
Yeah, so as you guys can see, you heard what he said, right? You heard who he mentioned. He said Cory Booker was jumping out the window for that. So, you know, Cory Booker, Van Weasel, you know what I'm saying? Chronicles of Shittick, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to everybody that came through, man. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, hit the bell, share the stream to your social media, show some love to the stream sponsors, because as you guys know, without them, there's no streams. Shout out to my man, John Guillory. Make sure y'all show John Guillory some love. Shout out to Hurricane IQ. Make sure y'all show Hurricane IQ some love. Shout out to Patrick Tyler. Make sure y'all show Patrick Tyler some love. Shout out to Brooklyn Queen for rounding it out and helping us meet the goal. All right. Shout out to Brooklyn Queen. All right. Shout out to the Green Team. Shout out to the people on Patreon. Shout out to the people on Rumble. Shout out to the people that watch everywhere. I appreciate you guys. We will be back at some point. Make sure you look for the premiere window. Don't move a muscle. This stream will take you into the next premiere window. Hit the like button over there. Share that window out. And as always, ladies and gentlemen,